all the rock drummers that I kind of modeled myself after, the Porcaros, the Aronoffs.
They all bury it. I know. For me, I'm such a big Bonham fan.
Yeah.
And that tonality, man.
He made it boom.
He did.
Did he come off?
He came off.
You have to, because it's a 26-inch bass drum with no muffling.
That's right.
Was it always 26, or did he go bigger than that?
No, I think he was pretty much always 26.
Was
he? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fun to play at 26.
It is. Yeah. He would vary tom sizes sometimes.
Yeah. Yes. He played tubs. Big old toms.
Yeah. Generally big, but tuned higher than people realize.
Why wouldn't you do that, though? I
mean, he tunes high, buddy, like a jazzer.
Yeah, like a jazzer.
Well, why wouldn't you play a 26-inch kick? Is it,
You have to be respectful of the genre. Like, we're pushing it with our 24s.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Well, for country, is it...
country,
that could be mixed down.
24 is perfect for modern country.
I agree, 100%. Yeah.
22 is good if you want to be a little bit more polite, pop. 20 is a great overall bass drum set if you're playing like weddings and casuals. And then 18.
So you're talking about volume.
Even the sonic quality, like a 20, you can cover the entire history of music, pretty much.
Yeah.
This is the Rich Redmond Show.
What's up, folks? Yep, your watch, your iPhone, your clock, if you got one of those on the wall, old school is correct. It's time for another always exciting episode of the Rich Redmond Show, coming to you from beautiful Spring Hill, Tennessee. We talk about things like music, motivation, success. Lots of drummers walk through this door because drummers, we are the cake. We are the foundation. Everything else is the frosting. It all falls apart without us. I love talking to drummers. And I got another one right here. He's my longtime friend, 19 years. He's come up on his 50th birthday this year. We got to do something really big. Jim McCarthy, JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com.
Thank you. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Dude, it's going to be a big one, buddy.
I'm on level 49.
What's the day?
What's the day?
I should have it memorized after 18 years. But.
August 20th.
Okay, it's going to be great. And so what do you want to do? Do you want to do a big public thing like at the Red Door or Fozzie's or or do you want to just do like a private thing at your...
I'm good with my backyard or the fire.
No, let's do that.
Yeah, very chill.
Let's do that. No one has to drive.
Right.
I like that.
No one.
Hey, did you watch the Grammys?
I did.
I'm sure we're going to talk with our guest today about the Grammys, but I think that, there's a new era of the Grammys. I was a really enjoyable show. Harvey Mason is an amazing drummer. He played on all these Herbie Hancock recordings. Classic LA drummer. His son, Harvey Mason Jr., is like the president of the Grammy Association. I think he's been doing a great job updating it. And I like watching the show because I get to keep up with all the new styles and genres and subgenres. So
what stood out to you?
Well, I don't want to become the get off my lawn guy, right? So everyone's talking about this Chapel Roan. Oh my God, the kids are loving this girl. She had the biggest day at Lollapalooza, the biggest crowd ever. And I'm like, okay, let me check this out. And so I'm like, all right, I get it. I watched the performance. Then I went and I did the deep dive on Spotify. And all I got to say is I have listened to her song Pink Pony Club about 50 times. I did an hour and a half workout yesterday and I played it over and over. And it is an earwig. It's a masterclass in writing architecturally perfect pop music.
Right. It's a lot of color to it.
It's so, and I'm just singing.
Despite the name.
I'm just dancing. And then the subjects are really, because I lived in West Hollywood for 2 years and I know what's happening there. And it's fun. It's a fun town.
Fun is a way to put it. Yeah.
So anyways, I really enjoyed that. And hey, I just want to do just a little bit of housekeeping here, just in this spirit of Mark Maron, just letting people know where I'm going to be. February 24th, I'm going to be at the Coliseum Nashville, thecoliseumnashville.com. I'm going to be doing a 2-hour masterclass. Come check us out. March 15th, I'm going to be doing a clinic at the West Coast Drum Center in Seattle. Check out my socials for all the stuff. March 16th, I'm going to be at the Woodstick Drum Festival with Greg Bissonette, also in Seattle. Come check that out. On July 21st, the day after the Music City Drum Show. Now, the Music City Drum Show, you're going to be there. I'm going to be there the 19th and the 20th.
Right.
And we're going to have a booth. And we're going to have step and repeat. We're going to be selling things. We might even be recording episodes of the podcast.
That's what I was saying, is that we're going to have merch. Merch is coming.
We're finally, after 6 years of this show, over 200 episodes, we're going to have hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, all the stuff. 19th and 20th, we're at the convention center doing the thing. We're going to have a booth. And then the day after, I'm going to be at the Drum Supply House. I'm going to be doing a big clinic. So that's where I'm going to be at. Let's get into it because we got an amazing guest. We are kindred spirits. We are members of the Mutual Admiration Society. I think this guy is so accomplished. Hailing from New Orleans, calling Nashville home for 15 years. He was a longtime band active member of the award-winning rock band Better Than Ezra, 13 years. He's been playing with this little group called Sugarland for 18 years. Currently, he's playing with Frankie Ballard, but he also does tons of recording sessions from Music Row, from his home studio. Look at these people that he's worked with. We're talking Big and Rich, Billy Pilgrim, Cowboy Troy, Frankie Ballard, Gavin DeGraw, Halfway to Hazard, Christian Bush. It goes on and on. Then he's recorded with guys like James Blunt, Marshall Crenshaw, the Indigo Girls, Lady Gaga, Sean Mullins. There's Daniel Powter, Suzanne Vega, the B-52s, Butch Walker, Beyonce. This is a big boy resume. I'm talking about my friend Travis McNabb.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
What's happening? What's happening, fellas?
So we are so happy that you made the trip over to Spring Hill, our new home.
Yeah.
You're a Franklinite, right?
I am, yeah, so I'm not too far.
You got the studio on the hill.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
If anybody's followed your Instagram, they know how coveted. There's got to be a lot of jealous drummers. That's a beautiful space.
It's a beautiful space. I feel I'm so fortunate. And
you deserve it.
Well, when my wife and I moved here from New Orleans, we it's just two of us. We don't have kids, and so we had a smaller home in New Orleans, and we were looking for that here because always had the studio of my old band, Better Than Ezra, down the street. And so initially we liked the Franklin area, but we were only finding bigger houses, and our intention, or because of what we were used to, thought we'd have a home and then would have a studio separate. Yeah. And so ultimately it started making sense. Okay, these are all bigger houses. My studio is going to wind up being in the same building, which is great. Yeah. And now I track a lot in my pajamas and all that sort of typical thing of those of us that have home studios. But we were really fortunate. We found this place in the woods on a hill. So it's a walkout basement. So I'm not like in a dungeon, and it's just a beautiful space. It's peaceful to be at, but even just the drive home through the horse farms and all that stuff just to get there is this meditative moment that it brings you into that peaceful space just going home, which is also a workspace for me, but it's a great one.
Yeah, the Instagram is Travnab.
That's right, Travnab.
So Travnab. So check it out, folks. You're going to see ton of nice piano, Persian rugs, tons of vintage kits, snare drums, curated percussion. Everything's all mic'd up, ready to go. There's a view. You got your workstation there. Boom. It's nice, man.
I'm spoiled.
Mine is going to be the typical man cave above the garage.
Okay.
20 by 21, 12-foot ceilings.
See, that I'm jealous of. I wish I had higher ceilings.
But you get around with plugins and all that.
Yeah, totally. And I do have enough square footage to where I can get good room sounds, even though I don't have the ceiling height I wish I had. Yeah. I just have to be a little more careful about actually being dynamic regarding the cymbals. That's the biggest thing. If I'm bashing those like it's a live show, they're just going to, then the room mics, with the compression you want to use on room mics and stuff, it becomes not pleasant. So that's something I've learned and figured in the space. Yeah. But other than that, I absolutely love it.
Yeah. And so now does your wife work from home? Because you got to work around that, right?
More or less she does. She's a woman of many talents and has had many careers, but currently her main thing is she's in real estate. Nice. And so she's out doing that, but also her home is the office. So she's so, I think, used to it or okay with it. So anytime I need to, whether it's recording or working up new material for a gig I'm going to do or whatever, I'll ask her or kind of see what she's up to. And she's always like, why are you just go do it.
That is amazing. She's a keeper.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 25 years, man.
That's amazing for a rock star like you to be available, to be committed. 25. Let's do the math. 25.
How long ago was it?
That was
the year 2000.
It was
99?
The end of 99. Yeah. And it was in Las Vegas at 2 a.m. after a show at House of Blues at Mandalay Bay.
How long have you been dating at that point?
About 3.5 years.
That's
good.
Yeah. That's almost twice the standard.
Is that right?
2 years. You're going to shoot or get off the pot kind of a thing.
Okay.
9,125 days. You guys, you've been saying yes, dear.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, she literally, so where my drums are in the space of my basement studio, our sofa is directly above them. So she will nap right above me while I'm playing. It's
amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that is great, and we'll talk about that because that's a big thing in the modern world is having your own space. Mm-hmm. So I'm in no rush because the majority of times I find myself in a commercial studios. You are many, many, many times, but It's still only about 5% of my income. You know what I mean? Because I do so many educational events, so I'm on Southwest Airlines and do that.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to do it. But I'm going to do it right. I'm going to build a room within a room.
Oh wow!
So I just gotta do that thing, float the floor, and do it
That's a
right
big
because
thing.
this is my last studio. I mean, I'm getting my AARP literature. You know what I mean? My hair is the same color as yours.
I was going to say you and I are right at the same age.
I love that we're 8 months apart.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
So I'll be 55 in July.
Oh, okay. So I'm ahead of you.
So we're 8 months apart.
Oh, so you were born in the 70s. I was just barely born in the 60s.
Well, man walked on the moon, and then you were born.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly right.
And then for me, 1 year later, the big collars, the big hair.
That's right.
John Travolta.
Man, the
Yeah,
70s,
that's right.
the 70s were special, man.
I agree.
Yeah, but you only remember what from 1974, 75 on. I mean,
Yeah, you're
I guess
right.
it's a pretty good part of the decade, but you
Yeah.
remember the 80s more, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I think the
MTV.
thing that a lot of people don't think about with the 70s is because you tend to think of disco and the fashion, the ridiculous fashion, that kind of that's awesome but ridiculous. But I mean, think about early 70s, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was some great stuff.
New wave
happening.
of British heavy metal.
Yes,
I still feel like some of the best music was from 69 to 82. That's a golden era.
It really
Because
is.
you get Laurel Canyon, you get rock and roll, you get the one-hit wonders,
you get yacht rock. I'm a huge yacht rock guy.
Yeah. So you
I
got
love all that stuff.
you got
Did you
Reeling
watch
in the
that
Years. You
documentary?
got
What's that?
Did you watch that documentary?
No, I haven't seen it yet. Is
it's
it
good.
good?
Well, I
Okay.
just got rid of HBO Max. I'm saving $16 a month.
Is it on HBO next?
Yes, and then there's a new show with that Noah guy from ER. He's in another medical drama. Remember, he was Clooney's sidekick, Noah Wiley.
Yeah.
So he's the lead in this new thing. It's called the unit, or I forget what it's called. But anyways, it's like a visceral. You are in the ER, and the whole episode is 1 hour in real time.
Oh, right. Kind of like remember the show 24?
Yes.
Wasn't that?
That was 24 episodes. Yep.
Yeah,
Happening in real time.
In real time.
That's
so it's
smart.
similar concept.
So now
yeah.
I got to get to the HBO again.
Yeah, you do.
know?
But you see, now the thing that drives me crazy, because we have about 10 of these stupid services.
Yeah, me too.
But half of them, including HBO now, you can either pay more or keep your same rate, but now you got to watch commercials. So we're just back to regular TV, except we're paying for each individual channel. But we're also watching commercials.
What do you guys get your regular television through? Mine is I use Hulu for regular TV. It's $75 a month.
Okay, I use YouTube TV for my regular TV.
Is that 50?
No, it's similar. It's 70,
75,
70 something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
79
it's
maybe.
like you cut the cord at some point, and everything was really nice and cheap, and they figured out a way to get you.
They got
us. You know?
Exactly. Well, and the other thing for us is, because I don't know if you have it on Hulu, one of the appeals for us with YouTube TV was it had the local networks. And my wife loves particular shows on like certain news shows every day, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Today in Nashville.
Right.
Yeah. you got to have that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that is a great thing. But I just feel like a bad friend that I admire you so much. I feel like are you self-taught for the most part?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
'Cause
in fact, I took one lesson about 2 or 3 years ago from, oh God, I'm so bad.
Dave Elitch?
Dave Elitch, thank you.
Wow,
With
he
Dave.
probably put you through the meat grinder.
The thing, I went to him for a specific thing, and we did this one lesson, and it's something I'm still trying to incorporate in my playing, and I haven't been able to do it all the way, which is to not bury the beater. Because tonally, it's just better not to. But being self-taught, the original pedal I had was crappy, and whatever. That's how I ended up playing. And obviously, plenty of great players do play that way.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of the
release.
Yeah, the open tone. But I've played for so long burying it that he opened my mind and physicality to how to do it, but I haven't gotten comfortable enough yet to do it on a gig or on a session, unless it's really light touch or something.
No, I always thought you wanted to bury the beat because I don't.
I think that's great. That's interesting, Jim, because one of the most recorded drummers of all time, John Robinson, who is one of the few drummers in the world that has close to perfect time. He passes the David Foster test, basically like take a click track and you will not hear the click track for 3.5 minutes. That's not me. I'm Italian. I'm emotional. No, it's not going to happen. It doesn't affect my ability to get work.
Sure. No.
But that's not my thing. He pulls off and he gets tons of power. So the Rufus song,
gosh.
and it comes off.
Yeah.
Right. But all the players all the rock drummers that I kind of modeled myself after, the Porcaros, the Aronoffs,
They all bury it. I know.
Yeah.
I know. For me, I'm such a big Bonham fan.
Yeah.
And that tonality, man.
He made it boom.
He did.
Did he come off?
He came off.
You have to because it's a 26-inch bass drum with no muffling.
That's right. That's right.
Was it always 26 or did he go bigger than that?
No, I think he was pretty much always 26.
Was
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fun to play at 26.
It is. Yeah. He would vary tom sizes sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He played tubs. Big old tubs.
Yeah. Generally big, but tuned higher than people realize.
Why wouldn't you do that though? I
He
mean,
tunes high, buddy, like a jazzer.
Yeah, like
Right.
a jazzer.
Well, why wouldn't you play a 26-inch kick? Is it,
You have to be respectful of the genre. Like we're pushing it with our 24s.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
well, for country, I mean, is it,
Country-
that could be mixed down. I mean,
24 is perfect for modern country.
I agree. 100%. Yeah.
22 is good if you want to be a little bit more polite, pop.
Right.
20 is a great overall bass drum. So
jazz.
if you're playing like weddings and casuals, and then 18
So you're talking about
is,
volume.
even the sonic quality, like a 20, you can cover the entire history of music, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, even for a front of house application, you're seeing something like that on stage. It's merely just aesthetic, right? I mean, they'll be able to mix it and do what they need to do with it, right?
They can manipulate it to some degree, but still, ultimately, the thing that you are making happen on the stage or in the studio, whatever it is, in front of the microphone, it can be changed and tweaked, but the original signal is important and it does affect the end result.
Yes.
The other thing too is on the stage, what you're hearing as a player as you blend the kit.
Yeah.
You mix it yourself as you play. What the band hears, that's all affected by how big or small that drum is. Yeah, there are wedges or ears or whatever you use, and that's part of the equation. But part of it is just how much physical air are you moving up there? And what kind of band is it? What are you trying to achieve?
Wow, I never knew.
If you're playing in there's a couple of bands out now. Let's say Greta Van Fleet, right? And they're totally updating
Rush and Led Zeppelin.
right? So maybe that drummer's got a 26, and that's going to be great. Maybe there's a felt strip on the front, a felt strip, and maybe a little, maybe a hospital pillow, but cheap, but not a lot, because all of us guys, we take the DW, the bone
hourglass thing, yeah.
and you know who invented that?
I feel like I did know
Scott Crago, the drummer for the Eagles.
Really?
He was in a band called Venice from Venice, California in the 90s, and he went to, he was close with John Good, and he said, got an idea. Now it's a standard giveaway on every DW drum. It's crazy.
The little muffling thing?
It's like a muffling bone.
Yeah.
I love those things. That's what I use that. And I use at some point, because I do bury the beater and for a while there, like, if you're on an arena tour, you can get away. Like I was playing a 26 with Sugarland for a while on a couple of tours. But because of the way that batter head responds, or really the resonant head bouncing back and all of that movement together, burying the beater in a 26, it can get a little, you got to really bury it hard or it's going to get flappy. And so at some point, instead of I didn't have a felt strip available, so I used a bandana rolled up and used it like a felt strip, like near the top of the head. And now I do that on every drum because I got so used to how that feels.
Yeah.
And it's a nice, I don't know, something about it. That's become a thing.
So when you say better, are you, just a real question, I'm getting drum geeky.
Let's drum nerd it out, buddy.
Yeah,
Come on.
because I mean,
That's why
even
we're here.
on my kick upstairs, I'm finding that I don't know if I'm intentionally coming off the head or if it's rebounding off the head. You know what I mean?
What the thing is you don't want the flutter. You want to choose either technique and fully commit to it. So pull that thing off like you're playing bebop jazz. Bang, comes way off.
Think about how when you hit a tom and you're not sticking it in there. You're pulling it off, right?
But I mean, when I hit my kick, I'm like, maybe I need to detune it a little bit. Make it softer.
I like a floppy kick head on my Power Stroke 3.
Yeah.
Just blah,
Yeah.
with the flam slam.
I like the Power Stroke 3 with the dot.
Nice.
Whatever that one's called. That's but I don't use the flam slam.
Yeah.
That's my go-to kick head.
So I was when I was on your Instagram recently, I saw the new Sugarland kit, and you're not afraid to you use a lot of those big fat snare drum mufflers. And you've got, it seems like on your snare drum, you've got a full one on there.
Yeah, the one I use though, and I use it like 85% of the time on so much stuff that I do, is the very thinnest one they make.
Right.
It's called the Shining, and it's a much thinner ply than the normal big fat snare drum. So it is the full head, but it because of it being thinner, it doesn't, like, even the way the ghost notes feel in your hand and stuff, it doesn't affect all of that.
That must be a more recent product from them.
It's relatively recent. It wasn't in the early days. It's been around, I'm going to say 5-ish years now or something.
Okay.
But because before they existed, and it so happens I know Chris
Mazzarisi.
From when at one point Sarah Bareilles was out with Sugarland and he was drum teching on that.
That's right.
And it was around the time that that he was about to launch Big Fat Snare Drum.
Yeah.
And so, I was aware of it and discussing it with him early on. But back in the day, we all used to just cut out heads and do a similar thing, or at least I did.
Yeah.
And I always liked using the thinner ply of a 2-ply head as my big fat thing, as my homemade one or whatever. Yeah. And so, and that was one of the things at some point I sort of said to him, I would love it if there were a thinner version of this. Now, it's not like I was involved in that but I just always had that opinion or feeling about it. And then eventually they did come out with one.
Good.
And that is, I use it much more often than not.
I don't think I have that one. I have all the models, even the one with the little ribbon crasher and the jingles and all the.
I got all that stuff too.
It's really fun to have it. So, are you committing to that as the sound of the snare drum for the Sugarland tour, where it's like, say, taped down, it's secured to the head, and then your side snare, is that an A&F?
It is an A&F.
Now A&F drums. I met that president, Rafi. What's his name?
Rami. Yeah.
Sorry, Rami.
Yeah.
So, but Rami was like, I know you play DW, but if you buy like say you buy 2 or 3 more of drums, I'll give you insane. Because I know which ones I want.
Right.
I want the giant pancake ballad.
Right. Yeah, that thing's amazing.
And I want the little crazy one that you have. And
that little crazy guy is, man, I love that thing. And actually, because fairly soon after they opened, I was in Austin. Gosh, it was 5 or 6 years ago now, because I think I was there for Frankie Ballard's wedding, actually. And I reached out to him and he said, yeah, come by. And I went and he kind of gave me a tour of the place. Yeah. And so then we had a, person-to-person relationship, and I called a year or two later to order a drum from him. And I wanted not the giant one, but one of the thin, real pancakey drums.
Yes.
And he said, okay, well, I was asking some questions about what I could get away with tension-wise on it and that kind of thing. He said, well, what are you really intending to do with it? And I tried to explain it. He said, I don't think that's the drum you want. I think you want, and it's the one I have, the little rude boy that's like whatever it is. 10.
Spock!
Yeah, and it's
for like loops, verse loops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And he pointed me to that instead of what I was going to order, and I love it, and I use it all the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Ludwig doesn't get mad because they don't.
Well, and they don't even make a drum like that.
Yeah,
that's
there you
the
go.
thing, So, and I love the A&F. I love his whole model. I love the aesthetic of the stuff. I love all of that. But but I've bought one of their drums because it's something I can't get from Ludwig. Ludwig, has just been so great to me.
Weren't you originally with DW?
I was a DW guy for a long time.
I always look at your picture on the wall at the amphitheater in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so he's a younger version.
Right,
looks exactly the same, but just all smiles, and he's
different
playing
color hair.
DW drums.
Yeah. I'm on a few walls like that around the country, and I get a text about once a month from somebody I know at one of the venues, like, "Oh, here you are," with brown hair.
Like, obviously, I don't have a stake in any of Aldean's restaurants, but it's nice to be plastered all over the walls.
Right,
sure. Cracked cymbals and drumsticks are up there and stuff.
Totally.
It's fun. So, Jim, you don't know about A&F drums, but it's like the epitome of hipster boutique drum companies in Austin, Texas, and they look so cool and they sound so unique and they have such odd sizes. But it reminds me of like a drum that you would find on like the Nostromo spaceship from Alien, like just battered and blistered and.
Yeah,
I'm looking at them now.
They're cool, Jim.
They're beautiful, man.
They're really cool
awesome.
drums.
Yeah,
super unique.
Yeah,
they can't be cheap. They're not cheap.
They're not cheap.
They're small. They're small batch.
Yeah.
It's small
really
batch
big,
whiskey.
Looks like really big kick drums and 4-piece
but
kits.
they're not wood. They're all.
Well, it varies.
Yeah,
they do wood ones and metal ones.
Yeah.
And
but the metal ones are.
Yeah, they're cool. That's the one I have is the steel.
Do they have one at Forks right now? Do you know? Because there was a metal kit there yesterday.
Probably
they might.
Yeah.
I would say definitely Nelson would, because that's their aesthetic.
Yeah, that's
over
true.
There.
No, I know they have a bunch of their snare drums. I can't recall if they have a kit at the moment or not, but I know they carry their stuff.
Yeah. But and then the reason why I said that I got pulled away from saying how much I admire you. And this is a big boy resume. This is somebody who's been working in the music industry successfully since you were 18.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a rarity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're not just surviving, you have always thrived. And when I watch you play, I mean, for everything from the way you strike, your touch and your technique, the tone you get, your posture, you have good hands, good balance between the limbs, you have a feel, you have a groove. I think that, you can't grow up in New Orleans and not have a feel and a groove. It's in the water, it's in the food, it's in the culture, it's it's everywhere. But
it's in the roux.
Even it's in the roux.
It's in the roux.
It's and you're not afraid to dress. Because the disease and being a country pop drummer is to just wear all black, right?
Right.
But you go out there and you got an ascot, you got your vests,
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, like, I like the vest with the t-shirt thing. I wore that out, but you always have some sort of like a dress shirt, but it's not a full length vest.
Yeah.
It's more up here.
Yeah, I'll do a short sleeve just because it's not quite as dressy, but it's just more realistic as a drummer.
What are the brands for short sleeve dress shirts?
I find some.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm trying to think. There are a couple of websites that I order stuff from that I can't think of the names.
It's not like H&M and something.
No, but I do find stuff at H&M occasionally, and actually I find stuff at J. Crew.
J. Crew.
Yeah.
You ever go into Tractor Supply?
I do go into Tractor Supply.
I love it. And Carhartt.
That's right.
Yeah.
Carhartt.
Yes.
Carhartt's very stylish.
I like the Carhartt.
That's
stuff.
right.
Yeah,
It's pretty
man.
cool.
It's good stuff there.
It is good stuff.
Well, that's the funny thing about fashion is like and we've been all in our respective groups for so long. In the early days we were kind of like a motorcycle gang with the chucks and the jackets and the wallet chains and the
Right.
and you can still do that a little bit with the Frankie crowd where you got the cuffed up jeans and stuff.
Right.
But it's like, and then we'll go through the stage where we look like the Knack with the skinny ties, and then I'll do the vest thing, and then we'll just do the t-shirts, or we'll do the rock t-shirt and the blazer.
Right.
We've done it all.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Well, when you get to our age, you've been through a lot of, eras.
Yes. So I'm back to the all black with a splash of color on the
Gotcha.
graphic.
Just wear a hoodie.
Huh?
Do the hoodie.
Oh, you know what? The Gospel Chops R&B guys wear their hoodies.
And for me, the
it's
hoodies,
hot.
the hoodie's too casual for me.
Yeah.
I for whatever reason, I like it to be a little more dressed up, and that's just, I don't even
It's an
judge
occasion.
anyone. Yeah, that's what I feel like. It is ultimately, it's a form of art. It's a commercial thing, but it's also, it's a show. There's show business happening.
Absolutely.
And I think, but even in life, how do you want to present yourself? I don't know. That stuff matters a bit to me.
It all matters. Mani-pedis matters. Skin
Branded
care,
look.
Skin care matter. Waxing matters. A $high haircut. You and I are not afraid to spend a lot of money on a haircut.
That's true.
I added up at the end of the year, and I'm like, oh, man, damn. But it's worth every penny because
I could have bought a Mercedes.
you got to have some good hair, man. You can't go to Supercuts.
I mean, I have my branded look. It's like,
Yeah.
get up out of bed and throw something on.
There you go.
But
If it's consistent,
Jim's
that's
on
your
his
thing.
fitness journey this year.
Yeah.
50 by 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What are you doing? What is it? Is it more about diet, exercise? Both?
It has to, at this point in life, it's got to be about diet.
As he's toasting us with his whiskey.
Cheers.
No, I love
It
it.
really is, because I mean, it's I can do all the working out in the world, but you got to get your nutrition in line.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, dude. Hey, so let's take us back, because we know that we don't have to go into your first drum teacher and all that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
what was the drummer that inspired you to pick it up? There was music in your family, right?
There was, yes. My dad was a guitar player, not in my memory, not professionally. In his late teens, early 20s, he was making a living in a little regional band in Louisiana, playing, mostly covers, that kind of thing. His dad actually did the same thing. My grandfather played bluegrass and country music.
Wow.
In South Louisiana, and got married and had kids, and so he got a regular job. My dad, same thing, got married, started having my brother and I, and so he got a regular job. It became a hobby. But that said, music was important in our household, both through my grandfather and my father. And I have a lot of vinyl, much of which I got from my parents. They were record collectors, not to collect records, but just because of the music.
to enjoy.
Yes. And so the turntable is on in our house more than the TV,
Oh, that's great.
It's great. And there was a piano in the house, and Dad played guitar. And so we would, my brother and I both, learned a few chords as kids and banged around the piano. And even long before I played drums, I remember my dad talking about music, like for whatever reason, I've cited this example before. I remember this conversation probably 3 or 4 years before I ever played drums of him saying, okay, listen to Mick Fleetwood. In the middle of this verse, he's just going to play a fill out of nowhere. Like it's not what drummers normally do. It's so interesting.
But it works.
It's cool. It's and he's pointing that kind of stuff out. I'm not a drummer at that point. My brother or I aren't, it's just, that's what's being talked about in our house. So it was great. It was cool. It was a musical household, even though I wasn't pursuing an instrument as yet. And so I think around 14-ish, I decided after playing a little guitar, and my brother had done the same thing. He's a couple years older than me. I decided I think I want to actually try to play bass. And because it's similar to the guitar Dad could teach me, but it's something new because guitar was boring because we had always heard it around the house.
Yeah, bass is easy.
Yeah, bass is easy, or so I probably thought. And but my brother, being older and old enough to get his first job, he said, well, I'm going to play bass. And of course, as brothers, you think, well, of course we'll be in a band together, so I got to do something else now. And so keyboards, whatever, drums seemed more exciting. So really, that honestly is what got me turned toward drums was because my brother was going to play bass.
Now, what happened to your brother? Did he go into another career?
Yeah, he's an attorney in Washington, D.C., works for the federal government. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Holy cow.
Yeah, but his declaration that I'm going to play bass and I'll be able to buy one because I have a job now, it's like, well, crap. All right, what am I going to do? And so it got my head thinking about drums. And so I bought, right around the time I turned 15, I bought a crappy little piece together, mismatched, made in Japan drum kit. And
that was 1984.
Yes.
Because Jim and I's gateway records were Synchronicity in 1984.
Wow.
Yep.
So there you go.
What was the record for you?
For me, because before I could buy drums, I knew I was saving up for them. I knew I was going to do this. So I'm watching drummers on TV and seeing what they do, and I'm air drumming.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, the first concert I went to that I chose and bought a ticket to was Synchronicity Tour.
Oh my God.
And so it was Stuart Copeland, and I was a huge Duran Duran fan. So I was air drumming to, and U2, early U2 as well. Those three bands I was air drumming to, and the first day I brought those drums home and set them up, Dad got his amp out, and we're playing songs.
It was at the Smoothie King Arena in New Orleans?
No, it was at that point in high school, my family had moved to Phoenix.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I saw them at a minor league baseball park in Phoenix.
Gotcha.
It was Police, Madness, and the Thompson Twins.
Wow.
Thompson Twins.
Hold me now.
That's
Yeah.
That's the heyday of MTV.
Absolutely.
Martha Quinn or the girl that talked like that, Nina Blackwood.
Nina Blackwood.
Martha Quinn.
I was going to say Hartley. Nina Hartley was a porn star, I think.
No, yeah, she was. She was totally.
I think so.
But she was
Anyways,
not a VJ, was she?
Yeah. No, but Martha Quinn.
Martha Quinn.
She was giving VJs.
Well, you have a fetish, I think. Short hair.
Short hair. Yes, my wife has short hair. Yes, I mean I like women with short hair for whatever reason. I don't know.
It's like an androgynous weird thing. But yeah, no, it's been my thing my entire life.
Well, I was going to say,
I like
your
my ex-wife.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Now I dating a girl with flowing blonde hair. It's good. Yeah,
you've had to adjust.
Yeah, I had to adjust. I had to adjust. So
we mature and our tastes change.
So you're playing along to these records.
Yeah, and then and literally like. Not even headphones at that point. My drums are set up with my back to the window in my bedroom, and the speakers are on the windowsill right behind my head, and shit is cranked up.
Cranked.
Yeah.
So you could stay with it. But then sometimes the needle would skip.
Right. Yeah.
Because I remember.
Well, I bet by that point I'm using cassettes probably.
Yeah. Cassettes. And then here's like your first touring band. Is this the Wipers?
The Wipers. Yeah.
Are they on Spotify?
Yeah, they're on Spotify.
Okay, so this is I'm circling that.
Yeah.
And I'm circling Vigilantes of Love.
Yes.
Beggars.
Yeah, and the Beggars were they were on, we signed to Island Records. I was the old guy in the band and I was 23 or 4. There were 2 guys were 21, one guy was 16 or 17.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
He wasn't the front man, was he?
no, he wasn't. He was the bass player. And
Bass is easy, so.
there you go. See?
Oh my gosh. We're supposed to be winning people over.
Just kidding.
Unfortunately, one of those guys used the publishing advance and to sadly get hooked on heroin. That band broke up quickly, even though it was a bunch of young guys who had this major label record deal, but it just kind of fell apart. And it was right at that time that band broke up. That's when I got the call about auditioning for Ezra. If that hadn't happened, I probably would have stayed with a couple other guys from that band, started a new band, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So those were the guys in the Beggars.
Cool.
Yeah. So
here you are, you're doing your DIY touring, taking shifts, driving the van, playing rock clubs.
Yep.
So you were ready for that with Ezra, but Ezra was like some big boy shit. There was one drummer before you, the first big radio, good.
Mm-hmm.
Got.
Yeah.
And there was like a China. Heavily featured in the mix.
Yeah, on the upbeats. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, and I've played that song so many times in my life that I still find myself pulling that move out on certain, like it'll just come at the end of a song. It hasn't been a theme of the song or anything, but on the out, here comes one of those, like, oh yeah, it's just automatic pilot.
It's like the DNA.
It's in the DNA.
It's in the roux.
Yeah.
One year without Dean, I did the double China.
Yeah.
Way up there.
Yeah. I never did it. The outfield thing.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I remember that outfield song because I had my $40 Wuhan, and I couldn't wait. I'm just counting, just waiting in the garage, in El Paso, Texas.
Yeah. We all had the Wuhan and the Rototoms.
Yes. The funny thing is Jim's got a Wuhan upstairs that's in pretty good shape. And the funny thing about Rototoms is you don't want to get rid of them because
but
you always
really
say
have no place for them.
Well, the thing is once you get rid of them, then you're in a missing persons tribute band, or you're in the Spasmatics.
Right.
Because I was in the Spasmatics for a while, and we dressed up like nerds, and my kit was kick, snare, floor tom, and then two of the larger mounted rototoms.
Which I still to this day have two of the larger mounted rototoms, and I use them from time to time.
Yeah,
because then you can get into Alex Van Halen mode with those.
Exactly.
You remember the Remo spokes? It was the mounting,
the pieces of
King.
clang. Yeah.
Terry Bozzio.
Yes, but the Alex Van Halen, the
84.
I'll Wait.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So good.
Right.
I mean, how do you not love
And that was the
Rototoms
most
after
iconic of his snare sounds in that song.
That
was the driest bone. It sounded like a bone to me.
covered with tape.
Covered with tape.
I know. Have you seen the video online where they mimic? It's amazing.
Was Beato, Rick Beato?
Yeah. And it's the tone, man.
Yeah.
It is. Did you do the?
I played that song at the tribute.
Which one did you play? I'll Wait. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did. Mean Streets.
Nice.
Oh, it was so fun. Oh, and at the end, the thing that I loved that I had the presence of mind to do at that. By the way, if anyone didn't know what we're talking about, it was a Alex Van Halen tribute show.
Nashville Drummers.
2015.
Jam. Yep. So there's a house band, and then all these different drummers just hop up and play, which they do at all these drummers jams. But at this one, Alex sent his tech and his kit, so we all got to play Alex's actual
giant
kit.
bass drums.
So and man, the tones. It's like, oh yeah, those are the tones.
That sounds like them.
Yeah, but the really fun thing was at the end of the song I played, I had it wasn't I don't remember this being predetermined, but I just had the presence of mind to play every dang thing on the kit. So
nice.
It's like as long as I have this opportunity, I'm hitting everything.
Were you able to bury the bass drum beater in that on his?
That's a good question. I probably did just because that's how I play, but I bet it was a bit of a pain in the ass.
He's got what, 26 or 24
Oh yeah,
inch?
and they're pretty open.
You really got to do it. Otherwise, if you don't fully commit, you get the.
Yeah, and
Right.
that ain't gonna work.
And I know I don't do that, so I guess I must let off.
You must let off.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna find out upstairs.
Yeah.
Jim is, Jim. I wouldn't say that Jim abandoned drumming, but he had the
Maybe that's
presence
one of
of
our
mind.
maybe that's one of our things that we talked about for merch earlier.
Yeah.
I'll just start asking all, I guess. So you want to see my drums? Because that's what I did the last time.
Well, see, Jim got into radio. He got into sales. Now he's a podcast host. Producing 20 podcasts. But once a drummer, always a drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love him for this. There's this Huey Lewis tribute band in the area, and he said, that gig is mine.
I said, when I met the guys, I said, I'm going to be your drummer.
I love it.
And he just made it happen.
That's awesome.
He just manifested. So he's got a gig coming up at the City Winery.
Oh, I want to go. I want to see this.
Oh boy,
Because there's
no
so
pressure
much,
at all.
Now it's good, Jim. Just do your thing, buddy.
Yeah, do your thing. Seriously, the Huey Lewis stuff is so good.
It's a lot harder than you realize.
It is, man. They were a great band.
Yeah. And it's funny. You talk about, you mentioned getting lessons for the first time, not too long ago.
Yeah.
Bill Gibson, we had him on the show, about 6 months ago or so?
Never taken a lesson in his life.
Never took
Okay.
He's starting to take lessons now. He's in his 70s.
Wow, that's amazing. Yep.
He's working,
Crazy.
He's working on his left foot clave and his songo and all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's funny, for somebody like you got to go. I would imagine it's similar to me because I've been doing voiceover for 20 plus years. And at some point, I know my stuff, but where can I take this? Right.
Well, that's right. What else? What about what I do?
Yeah.
What might I change if I could?
But how many people did you go through that be like, dude, I don't know what to do for you? Because I had to go through that.
Did you? Yeah. For me, it was fairly simple because for me, it was a very specific thing. It's the bass drum beater thing.
Yep.
And Elitch is sort of known in the drummer community as the drummer, the teacher to the pro drummers.
Posture.
Posture.
He'll find something.
Yeah, it's very specifically about posture and technique, and
Is he kind of like a Freddie Gruber in a way?
Yes, he's the new Freddie Gruber.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Freddie Gruber is all about keeping that snare drum level with your navel and really
I think his maybe some of his approaches and particulars might be different, but it's the same notion where he has a very specific idea about what the best physical approach to a drum kit is, and that's what he teaches.
Ergonomics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's kind of like, that was always my thing, was I see guys, most specifically the drummer and my brother's in two different tribute bands, and they kind of share a band, but with two different singers, Bob Seger and a Journey tribute band. And the drummer's got I say, it looks like somebody's setting up drums for the first time.
The toms are facing him.
Facing him like this.
How they always look in the Craigslist ad.
Right. You ever see the Facebook group called Badly Sold Drums?
No.
Yeah.
Jim, I got to say, you are a member of every Facebook group. Every time I go to join one, you are in it already. Member Jim McCarthy.
Facebook group, want to see my drums?
Pretty much, yeah.
But it's also like, I love Franklin, I love Spring Hill, I love Cool Springs, because this guy's smart. He wants to do business with everybody.
That's right.
Speaking of doing business, tell us about the tenure in Better Than Ezra, being a rock star, looking back at the glorious 90s, the velvet rope, cocaine era of the music business. Because I didn't hit my stride and find my success really until I was 34 years old, which put me in 2004, 2005. So I really only know, navigating the Nashville music business.
Sure.
I lived in Los Angeles, but you lived in and worked in the New Orleans scene, the Nashville scene, the Atlanta scene, and the Los Angeles scene.
That's right. Yeah, all those. It was. I feel so fortunate to have gotten to do it because I absolutely love what I do now as a sideman. I also do some producing. I do some mixing. But all of those things are, you're an embellisher or hopefully an improver of somebody else's material.
Right.
And so you're part of a team and you're collectively trying to make something the best it can be.
Yeah.
And I really like that role. And I was never I didn't start playing music to be in a spotlight. And generally drummers don't. I mean, we're sitting behind stuff. We were sitting down, but you have so much sort of control over really what's happening, but the role isn't a look at me role. And I really like that, and that is more attuned to my personality. But that said, the reason I started playing is because I loved the Police and Duran Duran and, whoever I loved at that moment. And I always wanted to be in a band where it's you have ownership, you have creative control, blah, 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 And so having gotten to do that for the early chunk of my career in a band that had real success, I'm very thankful for, because I do know players that I'm envious of that play on huge records and tours, but that they'll lament a bit. I wish I could have gotten to do the band thing. And so I'm just so thankful I got to do that. And it has its own pros and cons.
Yeah.
You got to do every meet and greet. You got to kiss every program director's ass. You got to
radio visits at 4:30 in the morning.
Absolutely. And you're worried about ticket sales and you're worried about the new single. How's it doing? we don't really worry about that stuff in what we do now. And so, but at the same time, we're putting the songs together. We're producing the records. We're making the decisions about what the tour will be, you know? And so each role has its set of pros and cons, but I am very thankful that I got to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
It always kind of eluded me. I tried many, many times. But I cannot complain at all because every group that I've been in has been a quasi-democracy in the sense that I was in that band Rushlow. And then, of course, with Jason, it's very much presented as a collective ensemble.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's like a band.
Yeah, it's like a band. And that's I think that's cool. You know, I think that's a cool thing about what y'all have going with Jason. It definitely, as someone outside of it, has always appeared that way. You know, that it is a band.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, let's talk about this Megan Maroney two records that you played on.
Yeah. And an EP.
She's great.
She's great.
Now, Christian Bush is the producer, right?
He is. Yeah.
So speaking of, you know, relationships,
Yeah.
I look at your resume and I look at all the threads and the tentacles that connect everything, and this begat that.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many relationships in your life in multiple musical cities that you will never be out of work.
Yeah, and I think that's important to, you know, if part of what we do here on a podcast like this is hopefully give folks some insight into how we've gotten to do what we do.
How it works, yeah.
Anything, any gig session, any rehearsal, anytime you show up somewhere and play, you don't know where that might lead.
Yep.
And so I think it's always important to remember, as a human, just dealing with other humans, just be kind and be pleasant and get along with people. And if you're proud of what you do, be prepared as best you can. And, you know, just do the best job you can do. Partly just out of pride of taking on this thing, this endeavor, this thing we're doing, especially trying to make a living out of something that not a lot of people get to make a living out of.
Oh, God.
But also just with that in mind, that even whatever you're doing at the moment doesn't pay a thing, but you just don't know where it's going to lead. And so I think every situation, and you're right, that's, you know, and that's most any journeyman, I guess you could use that term at this point for people like us. If you look at their career, that's what it is. All of the wide range of things I do now all stem from earlier things that originally were fewer, you know.
Yeah, and you never mailed it in, and you gave everybody your heart and soul, and people can see that, and you sweat for them, and you're a professional, you know. To be on time is to be early is to be on time, and you can take direction without being offended, and you're a problem solver. You got all the tones and everything together. And would you consider? I wouldn't consider you an introvert.
I by nature I am.
Yeah.
It's something I had to kind of work on. And I mean, honestly, driving here, I felt a little anxious. I'm not super into public speaking or going to parties. You know what I mean? It's just not my nature. Yeah. But partly, one thing that I think helped me inadvertently, maybe, my family moved around a fair amount when I was a kid because my dad would get transferred. It wasn't military or anything, but just in his job, we would move to different cities. And so I would have to, middle of the school year, I'm in a new school. Those kind of things sort of forced me to some degree to learn how to
make new friends, swim with the sharks.
That's right. And then, and that's exactly what we do on different gigs all the time, whether it's different sessions every day or a new tour you're going to be on or whatever. Yeah. And so you come into the room, and so much of it is reading the room. Like, you know, who's really running the show?
What's the chain of command?
Yeah. How open are they to ideas versus they know exactly what they want? You know, all of those things matter. And you're trying to just you listen more than speak initially to really see what the scenario is.
Yeah, what do they say? We have 2 ears, 1 mouth.
There you go.
Right?
I've never heard that, but that's exactly it, man.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
There's some things that come out of my extrovert mouth that sometimes I wish I could just take back and put in the mouth. But no, I would consider you're like you're a very polite extrovert. You know what I mean?
Okay,
You're a very polished extrovert. Like, I'm a madman. I'm like bordering on Keith Moon. You know, I'm not going to take an elephant tranquilizer before I play.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not going to put explosives in my bass drum and blow out Pete Townshend's ears.
Right. But it's, there are kind of a long-ish, or it's really kind of a couple stories I'd love to share with you.
Please, yeah.
Because they relate to what we're talking about now. In one way, what relationships might lead to, and also the aspect of personalities within what we're doing. When I was in my early 20s, still living in Georgia, so the band I was in, the Beggars, that was in San Francisco. I was there for about a year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then after that is when I joined Ezra and got to move home to New Orleans. But before that, I was in Georgia for my early 20s. And I was in a band called Vigilantes of Love, but I was also, there's so many asides here.
Sean Mullins? Was Sean Mullins in the picture?
He was.
Or Billy Pilgrim?
Both.
Gotcha.
So they were part of this scene there. One thing that helped me there is I was a band member in this band called Vigilantes of Love, and we had to deal with Capricorn Records and just kind of sort of making a living, I knew this is what I wanted to do once I started playing drums, so I didn't want to go to college. My parents asked me to go just try a semester. It's different than high school. At least give it a shot for us. And out of respect for them, I did that.
Nice.
In that one semester, I took a recording course, which was a lab like at a studio, hands-on. So at 18, I'm learning recording engineering.
Signal path, microphones.
Yeah. And so that in my early 20s then allowed me to, while I'm kind of making a living as a guy playing music, I'm also working at a studio as a recording engineer. And this is pre-digital, this is analog recording.
So like ADATs and...
even before that, just like tape.
Straight up tape.
Because this is like 91, 92, 93.
So you're learning how to cut tape.
Yeah.
Pre-Pro Tools days.
Dude, that is
indeed.
Stressful.
Yeah.
I had a good time cutting tape. I liked it.
Yeah. But don't mess up.
But it was half-inch tape, not 2-inch tape.
Well, so. and it's the same thing with doing takes. It's like, well, yeah, you can punch in, but really you're trying to it's a different kind of pressure, if you recorded in that era, when the recording light goes on or when you're cutting a take. Every note, top to bottom, everything you're playing, you're trying to nail the whole thing because you don't now, when I'm tracking stuff in my house, I'll do 2 or 3 passes and I barely know the song because I know I can then edit together the best bits and whatever. That's not what it was. No. And so that teaches a different kind of intensity and focus.
Yes.
But anyway, so I'm working at that studio as a recording engineer. I'm playing in a band, but I'm also playing with a lot of these singer-songwriters that have sprouted up after the Indigo Girls' success in Decatur, Atlanta, Georgia. And so Sean Mullins was one.
Decatur.
Yes, exactly. Very nice. And Billy Pilgrim was another, and Christian Bush was one of the 2 guys in Billy Pilgrim. So that's our original connection. Billy Pilgrim signed a deal, I think with Atlantic, one of the major labels. And I had recorded their whole record before and recorded their demos, and they were a duo. I wasn't a band member, but I was doing anything they were doing with a drummer. And then they get their record deal and they hire their hero, and Kenny Aronoff comes and plays on the record, right? And I'm 23 or so. And of course, it hurt my heart. It hurt my ego, But thankfully, all of 5 years before that or something, I'd read Kenny Aronoff in Modern Drummer talking about himself being replaced on Mellencamp. Yeah. And he talked about, he said to Mellencamp,
with Rick Schlosser.
Is that who it was? I didn't remember. Okay. And he said, but am I still your drummer? Because they were going to send him home. And Mellencamp says, yes. He said, then can I stay? I want to learn. I want to see why I'm not the guy.
I'll sleep on the floor.
You're right.
Yeah.
And I remembered that story, and it so happens that guy's coming in to replace me. And I'd been doing session stuff, so I'd replaced somebody else. I'd been on the other side of that. I knew that feeling. And so I decided, okay, let me learn from Kenny's example and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I hung out at the studio, watched him do his thing, and he was very gracious, very kind to me. Whereas, first thing here is if my ego gets better of me and I go, oh, screw you guys, man, I played on all your stuff and then you get a deal, now you're using Kenny. Then I don't get Sugarland 15 years later. You know what I mean? So that's the relationship. That's part of
big.
the deal.
Well, it's humility too.
Right.
Yeah.
And don't burn the bridges.
Don't burn the bridges.
Put your pride in your pocket where you put your money.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's from my dad.
I like it. And Kenny was so kind to me. He pulled me aside and said,
you guys keep in touch?
We... not often, but we run across each other at a festival, or every once in a while, maybe a call or text every few years or something, and he's always been very kind ever since that thing 30 years ago.
Yeah.
He never swears.
He's very blue.
Yes.
Very colorful.
And I do remember that from that initial meeting. And I also, I heard him getting sounds up and I heard him doing takes, and I'm like, okay, this is the first time I've seen a real deal, that level guy work, right? And I'm in the studio watching it happen. And I realized, okay, he's really good, but he's just human.
Yeah.
Like, he's screwing up and he's finding the feel of the track and what, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so there's not magic that I'm not aware of. He's just dude doing a thing on a high level.
Yeah.
But the other thing I noticed about him was that he was you have much in common with him. He was a big ball of energy, of a very positive energy, you know, and that was the thing that I remember thinking, man, if that's part of what gets you to that level, I don't know that that's not built into me, you know. And I remember kind of thinking about that aspect, or taking that in at least, not anguishing over it, but being aware of it. And then roughly a year-ish later, when I'm out now in San Francisco, I've joined that band, the Beggars. I'm getting to play on a record that coincidentally Jim Keltner is the other drummer on.
Nice.
So I'm playing on 4 or 5 tracks. He's playing on 4 or 5 tracks.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he also was so kind to me, this 24-year-old drummer, and he's Jim Keltner.
Ringo's favorite drummer, Jim.
Yeah.
Keltner?
Yeah.
Really?
And he, so I got to watch him do his thing. And there's a great story from that. But talking about the personality thing, the thing that I learned there was Keltner's so much more chill. And I related more to his personality. And I thought, okay, well, he's Jim Keltner. And he's
successful.
He's successful. And so that's when I had the light bulb of, okay, what do the two guys have in common aside from being great drummers? Just positive energy. It's not about if you're a big fireball or you're Zen. It's just bringing positivity to the room, you know? And so that was an insight for me. But then there was another moment that was maybe even a bigger insight that I love. So they had already done scratch piano or guitar or whatever it was for the given song and vocal, and they were just getting drums because they had Jim for maybe 2 days, and so they were just getting drums and they were going to do everything else after. And so they're focusing on drums, and on this given song they played him the work tape or what he's going to cut to, and talked about a couple ideas, but he says, let me just go in and try some stuff. So they run it, he plays a take, they talk a little bit about it, he plays another take. The engineer, the artist, people are throwing ideas. What if you try this on this part, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you know, and he does maybe 3 or 4. Okay, come in, let's talk about it. And then I think we'll be able to map out what the right drum arrangement is for this, right? And so he comes into the control room, and after a couple of listens of a couple, you know, let's listen to what you did on the pre-chorus on take 2, whatever, you know. And either the artist or producer, somebody, you know, who's sort of declaring, says, okay, I think I know how it should work. If you did the verse like you did on this take, and you did the chorus and then the bridge, I loved when you went to the toms or whatever, you know, maps out what the through line should be. I, as the fly on the wall and a drummer and taking all this in, know that they've just told him to do what he did on the first take. Like, he already did all of this. It was his first instinct, and it was right.
Amazing.
And whoever's saying this doesn't even realize that.
That happened.
Yeah. They think this is their idea of Frankensteining
But
the
does
idea.
Jim have a little smile on his face like,
Well, that's the beautiful thing, is because I knew at that moment, I knew my instinct would be to go, well, that's what I did. Let's listen to take 1. It's there. Not out of, I told you so, or I know what I'm doing. Why didn't you just listen? Not that, but like, we're simpatico. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
You know, I think the same thing.
Yeah.
We've already even got it. Jim didn't do any of that. Jim heard that whole thing, and he's got his shades on, and he's just been chilling on the sofa next to me in the back of the control room. And as they've told him this rundown of what it should be, and I'm having all these thoughts of he already did that. And he just kind of leans back and goes, kind of smiles and goes, yeah, man, that's a great idea. Let me go do that. And it's a great idea. I already did that.
Yeah.
You know, but it's ultimately, we're service industry.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whose idea it was, where it came from. He doesn't have to claim it.
Yeah.
He just is going to give them what they want and make them happy.
Amazing.
But to do it and handle it in that way, I was just like, pow. It was such a
Those are two amazing lessons. Oh my
I
God!
know.
What about what's the thing with Billy the Billy Pilgrim song "California Stars"? Did he write that and then Wilco re-recorded it, or is
I
he
don't
guesting on the?
I'm not aware.
Because if you pull up Wilco on Spotify, the first song, the most played song that they have, is called "California Stars."
Oh, okay.
But it's Billy Pilgrim.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I wasn't aware of it. Okay, cool.
Interesting.
Because that might have happened later, because Billy Pilgrim carried on after I moved away, and then I was in Ezra, and they were still doing their thing. So that's just, I'm not familiar with that aspect of it. That's pretty cool. I'll have to look into that.
So all these different music scenes. Back to Megan and Rhodey. Had to be fun. Great songs.
Great songs. And we did an EP, then we've done now 2 albums. And
is it this typical one song every 90 minutes?
It generally we're doing 1.5 or maybe 2, but sometimes 1 in the 90 minutes. It's not a hurry, but it's not snail pace either,
Yeah.
and it's very much all that stuff is band in a room kind of playing, I mean, and then when I hear the records back, they haven't chopped anything up or done anything different than what we did on the floor, you know? And so to me, that's a pretty comfortable pace. I was, so much of my recording experience was those early days in Georgia with those singer-songwriters, then as a band member in Ezra, then sideman work as a hired player in LA. I did a lot of stuff with Warren Hewart on records he was doing.
That's right.
And all of that stuff is different than once I came here and started doing Nashville sessions. First, like I did one, I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but I was trying to learn the number system. So I went into one demo session and didn't tell them I had never really done it other than at home trying to learn it.
So when you're listening to the demo go down, you're trying to figure it out?
And I'd read Jim Riley's book and had some understanding, but I hadn't done it on a session. And in hindsight, like Steve Mackey was the bass player on it. Like, it's people you want to impress. And I just tasked myself with, I'm not going to tell them, I'm just going to try and do this. And man, I was blowing it. Because the thing that I've learned about numbers charts and is if you're in that role, if it's a record and you have time to talk about arrangement and figure things out, great, you can present ideas. And generally at that level, things are probably pretty well written and sussed out already. But on some of those demo sessions, I would just not believe the chart. I understood what I was reading, but it seemed like such a bad idea. I just wouldn't want to do it. My body wouldn't do it. Like 3 bars in the pre-chorus, we're going to do a push and then wait a bar and a half. What? That's dumb, And so I just wouldn't do it. And
a 5-bar bridge.
Right. And so I learned my lesson on that. It's like, okay, but eventually in that session, I told them, look, I've never done numbers charts before, guys. So, and they were like, oh, okay, it's
this
all
is how
good.
it works, kid.
Yeah.
That's what I was on a traditional Nashville tracking thing, and it was. Jimmy, the keyboard player, the award-winning keyboard player that played with like Faith Hill and all big records. He's like, he goes, you got this, kid. It's just every time you see a number, it's 4 beats. When you see the accent, it means it's the N of 2 or the N of 4. You see the diamond-looking thing, it's a ta-da, it's a whole note.
Right.
You got this.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's
so funny, some of that stuff, that the way it'll stick with me, because there's still, anytime there's notation written, I'm like, as soon as I get handed a chart and I see some notation that's going to be a line that everyone hits or whatever, I'm like, okay, when we get to that moment, if they're playing a work tape or demo, I'm making sure no one's talking to me, because I'm going to have to either memorize or make my own little chicken scratch of what that is, because I can't read that notation.
Oh, you don't read rhythmic notation?
No.
Wow.
No.
You have done really well for...
Man, I'm literally the one lesson I've had was that one I'm talking about not burying the beater. Otherwise, no lessons, no music school, no, I'm just like homemade.
When you're doing a track with the Indigo Girls or Better Than Ezra, you don't make your own charts. You got to memorize it.
Well, it's mostly memorization, but it's also, I do charts because I do so many different kind of gigs now but it's my own language. A lot of it based on numbers charts. A lot of it, like I remember, I used to put an X meaning a stop, but then at some point on some session I was doing at Schoenfeld's, somebody said, oh, the Dorito. and it's
Hard stop.
Yeah. Oh, that's so now it's a Dorito. Now I use that.
Now you got a Dorito.
And I call it a Dorito. Like I remember that,
Oh my God, dude. That's really interesting. Because we all have our unique gifts and talents, because you're probably 5 bajillion times the engineer I am. But, you are. Wait a minute. You are 5 billion times more the engineer than I am.
That's what you said.
Yeah, you said it right.
Oh yeah. But I have this like weird sickness with rhythmic notation that you could just sing me a rhythm and I will write it down.
I wish I had it. I wish I had that.
My God.
And I just never learned it. And at this point, like I would like to learn it, and I don't really know the best way. Like every once in a while, I'll dig into it for a minute, and admittedly, it's my own problem. I won't have the patience and commitment to continue learning it. But I'll spend a half a day like, okay, so what does this mean? But anything, man, when we were coming up, there was no YouTube to learn anything.
No way.
So now if I'm trying to learn something like that from online information or even from a book, you can't ask the book questions. You don't get feedback from you know what I mean? Like I need to actually go to someone that will teach me notation.
It's like the universe is confirming something for us.
Jim wants me to do my.
We're gonna, it's like you need somebody's methodology of charting music out or something. It's weird.
It's our goal
Gosh,
to
who
have
came
this,
up with that idea?
Yeah, it's our goal to have this product by
Sometime this year.
Christmas.
Okay.
But hey, let's look at like you've got to have some stories about these people that you're working with, because you said recording work with James Blunt, she's beautiful. Marshall Crenshaw, rock star. My God, Indigo Girls. There's got to be a story with Lady Gaga. Daniel Powder. What was his one song? Beautiful Day.
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne Vega.
Yeah. Some of those are things where I played on a record and that person was also on that record.
Yes.
So some of these people I didn't work with directly.
Oh, gotcha.
Like J-Lo, it was a Jennifer Nettles and J-Lo did a song together.
Yeah.
And Dan Huff was producing and I did the drum track, but I didn't see J-Lo.
Oh yeah.
So some of the things are like
no,
that.
you could claim that, dude.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's valid. And with the live thing too, because that's like on recording. If I'm on the same record as them, I feel like I can name them. I'm on a record with that person.
Yes.
With the live, because everybody treats the credits thing a little different. For me, the live, whether it's toured with, that means I toured with them. Otherwise, I'll usually have something that's like
live performances with.
Yes, specialty performance or live performance, something where it wasn't a tour.
Yeah.
It was a one-time thing or maybe a few-time thing. But in how I do that, if there was a rehearsal, I'll claim it. If they jumped on stage and sang a few backup lines, I won't claim it. That's kind of how
If they jump up on stage and sing a whole song or 5 songs, I'm claiming that shit.
No, that's true.
Because people are like, Garth Brooks. I'm like, yeah, motherfucker. He jumped up on stage and we did 2 songs together. Did you play Friends in Low Places with Garth Brooks? That's what I thought.
Right.
I'm claiming it.
To a big audience, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So
I think that's valid.
Yeah.
So there's a level of like
claiming.
No, I think there's probably a little bit like if there's a scale of integrity, there's a middle line. You're probably more on the more integrous side of things.
Yeah.
I try to be. I'd rather not. I'd rather leave it off than claim something that then someone would call me out and say, yeah, but. So they kind of like at one point when they rebooted Lilith Fair back in maybe 2010 or 12 or something, Sugarland was on it for a portion of it. Sheryl Crow was too. At some point she got up and because both bands have a song called All I Want to Do, right? So she got up during our All I Want to Do and kind of sang a couple lines. Well, I don't have Sheryl Crow on my resume.
Yeah.
That didn't count.
Yeah.
But I was part of a house band at a benefit at the Ryman, and Jack White, we had rehearsals at SIR that Jack White came to, and yes, we played a couple songs with him. That's on that. I list him.
Let me ask you this though: is it one of those things that like? Is it something you would call somebody out for? Like, well, come on, did you really?
It's the people.
Do you apply? It's like a rule you would apply. You would have for somebody else, but you apply to yourself.
I suppose so. Although generally, I'm not one to dig in and try and know. But I have seen things that rub me a little wrong, where I know that like
you notice when we're in the same festival together, but they never actually played at the same time or in the same setting. That is a stretch.
No, shared the stage with, meaning opened for. No,
that's
sorry,
weird.
that's not. You can't claim that.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, I mean, we played with Nuclear Assault. Everyone's like, hold on.
You got some crickets on there, buddy?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. No, Jim's
Nobody remembers Nuclear Assault.
I don't.
Was it like
Really?
Was it like a punk rock band?
When I was in the renowned and esteemed band Connecticut White Bread.
Yes.
Our first gig was opening for Nuclear Assault at the Briar Patch in Carmel, New York.
Oh yeah, we've mentioned that before.
Yeah. And we also played with Overkill at one point.
I remember Urge Overkill.
I remember Urge Overkill. Yeah,
we played with Overkill, the
Just
original,
Overkill.
the OG Overkill.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
So 2 years ago, I was in a CMT house band, and I got to back up Slash, Billy Gibbons, Leanne
That was
Rimes,
cool.
Winona Ryder,
Yeah.
Paul Rogers, the band leader from the Rolling
saw
Stones,
that, man.
Warren Haynes.
Was
I'm putting them on the resume.
Oh yeah,
You
Ethan
know.
Pilsner
Yeah.
was on bass on that. Yeah. I saw whatever show that was. I
And I
watched
was like,
that.
you know what?
Yeah.
Of
Dude,
course, that's all valid.
Spent
That's
2
totally
days with those
valid.
people.
Yeah, that's the thing. You rehearsed that stuff. You played with them. You are a professional who belonged there and did a good job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It should be on your resume.
Now, we're in Detroit, 2 nights. Kid Rock jumps up on stage with us and sings Cowboy with us in his hometown of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to lead with Kid Rock.
Right.
I'm going to lead with, 25 years with Jason Aldean.
That would be a shared the stage with type of credit, right?
I put it on there, dude. Because my thing is that we have different ways of listing it. But I put recorded, toured, or performed with.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. And
That's all encompassing.
I think the only distinction I made is I just make it 3 categories. But,
Yeah, that's smart.
But I don't have a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's, to me, everything we've talked about is sort of common sense about being reasonable about what you've done or haven't done.
But
now in your days of Ezra, did you play at a place called Toad's Place in New Haven?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know Toad's Place.
We've played Toad's Place, Rich. Have you?
No. Yale, right?
That was New Haven.
Isn't it near Yale?
I've played in Toad's Place many a time.
Yeah, that's a
thanks.
good.
Many a time it was good.
That's a good rock club.
Will Hoke. Did you go out with him for?
No,
I like Will.
I there was a point at which we talked about me maybe touring with him, but I never have. I worked with him on there was a record I was producing for a singer-songwriter named Stephen Kellogg, and Will they have a duet on it. So
yeah,
but I love Will's music.
Me too.
It's so
Americana rock and roll at its finest.
Absolutely,
one of
100%.
Nashville's treasures.
Yep.
2 other gigs that come to mind that you've done more recently, and one is like a AAA type singer songwriter artist. You went out with Gavin DeGraw, but then there's another guy.
Let's see. Because I was going to say that Colby Calais but you said another guy.
Well, that's awesome, Colby Calais.
Yeah.
I love her
and that
music.
was just, I subbed a few shows, but she was lovely, had a great band. Musically, it was very satisfying. It was really a fun experience.
Yeah, there's another guy, he's like a singer, songwriter, AAA rocker guy that you will go out and do things with. Recorded with live performances, B-52s, Butch Walker, Beyonce, Howie Day.
Patrick Droney?
Patrick Droney.
Yeah, Patrick Droney.
Yeah.
He's so talented, man. He is just great. And he's a guy that he's put out a couple records now. And yeah, it is kind of AAA neighborhood. It's in the, for lack of a better descriptor, a lot of people will use the John Mayer sort of reference on him in that he is a wonderful blues-based, but not blues songwriting guitar player, plays Strat with a really soulful voice, and it's sort of pop rock. And I've done some touring with him and recorded with him, and just such a talent. And he's actually working on a new record now. I may wind up playing some stuff on that. We'll see. But I played on his last one and just love him as a person and as a talent. I mean, he's somebody that I think has so much potential to be so much bigger than he is as yet. And also a hell of a songwriter. I mean, I know Keith Urban's cut a few of his songs. I don't know if they've come out yet or not, but like he's, aside from his talents as a player and singer and producer, I mean, he definitely has his own kind of sound production wise too, but it just purely as a songwriter, he's gotten a lot of attention in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 other things I wanted to ask you about. So much stuff to talk about. The Frankie Ballard Band, is that still Eddie and Robbie and the Cats?
It's not at this point.
Oh, yeah.
It was, that band initially came back after COVID, but Eddie, we knew basically, oddly enough, Frankie was planning to be off the road at the top of 2020 2020 because his daughter was due to be born in February or March of 2020. So we knew we'd be off the road for a while. And of course, that's when COVID hit. But coincidentally, since we knew that was coming, Eddie wound up, he got the gig with Florida Georgia Line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so ever since then, he's been doing that thing.
And then Robbie,
the
bass player,
who is around our age and sort of journeyman, who's done so much cool stuff, everything from Keith Urban to Joe Satriani.
Yeah, we did Mindy McCready together.
Okay, yeah. So you know all his,
yeah.
And he's just such a character, and I absolutely love him.
Social media-less.
Social media-less, yes. Unfortunately, because he's a very unique and entertaining, and some would say love him or hate him kind of guy, but I absolutely love him.
And handsome as hell.
Yes, he is. And for being a Mr. Rugged dude, he's a little too worried about his fashion, I think. But
there's a focus. There is a focus there. Yeah,
yeah. But he is a sweetheart and a great, just like rock and roll bass player.
Yeah.
You know,
the pick.
Yeah. In fact, recently, so he's not out with Frankie anymore. To answer your question, because initially after COVID, Frankie wasn't that busy, and so Robbie was doing some other stuff as well, and there started being schedule conflicts, and so he wound up. Now there's a wonderful guy named Reno Bowe. Who comes from the rock and roll world, who's playing with Frankie. But Robbie recently filled in, I think, about 8 shows with Skinnerd.
All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, he's just built for that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Robbie, he has a shed in his backyard, and he's in this neighborhood here. He's not far from here.
Was he in Spring Hill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
yeah.
nice. Evan Hutchings is here.
Oh, is he?
David Santos is here.
Oh, Santos is? Oh, cool.
Little thing.
Nice. But Robbie, when he's preparing for a gig, he goes out in his shed, he stands up, and he has a microphone, and he has a PA, and he plays like he's playing the gig.
That's smart.
Like he's not sitting there just on a stool at the house
Practice
quietly.
for the performance.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he is all in on it.
That's great.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah,
That's a really cool thing. That's cool, Robbie.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I was going to ask you about is that you've been doing this David Bowie tribute thing.
Yeah, man. That has been... I felt I was so honored to get to be a part of that, because it's numerous heroes of mine are a part of it, you know. So it's the show is it's like a over 2-hour show spanning Bowie's career, and it's in. So it's such a variety of music, you know, so that part of it's fun just from a musical standpoint. And it's generally, we're playing theaters. So it's like 2,000, 2,500 seats, beautiful old theaters, all of it, you know, so I love those kind of tours.
Yes.
Just
the Persian rug tours.
Yes, exactly. Just big enough to have bus and crew, but you're not at a shed outside of town somewhere. You're at a beautiful old historic theater, and you're downtown, and you can walk around and see stuff. And there's so many things about that level of touring that I love. And so they have there's a band that's the band, and then they have these various front people that sing different songs of his.
Gary Oldman?
No, Gary Oldman has done it before, but I didn't get to do it with him. On the touring I did, Todd Rundgren was part of it.
Yeah.
Royston Langdon, who was the singer for Space Hog, who I was a huge fan of, and is the most Bowie-like voice-wise of the bunch.
Did you ever work with my friend Jeremy Little? He's like a background singer. Well, he's a composer, but I could have sworn he used to do it with Oldman.
Because they've done various tours, and it'll be a different collective of people,
Gotcha.
you know. But also Adrian Belew, he was on the stuff I've done, and he was such a hero of mine. Originally from the King Crimson, sort of mid '80s King Crimson stuff.
Is Adrian on here? He better be on here, man.
Oh yeah, I might not have him on there.
Let's add it. Live performances with Adrian Belew.
If you pulled from my website's old. A lot of the latest stuff isn't on there. But
and you know you have a wiki. Did you start that or someone else?
I didn't start. It's
the weirdest thing.
I'm pretty sure that it's a guy that was a big Ezra fan, and he's a drummer and a singer, and that I'm friendly with, and I think he's the one who originally started it.
That's the thing about the wiki is I don't know why I don't have one. I don't have one, but if somebody starts it on your behalf, your fate is kind of in their hands.
I know. And so thankfully it was this guy, Jim, who has always been a sweetheart and one of those rare in my world fan that becomes a friend, like he was a real Ezra fan, but it was always very respectful and it was always very much about the music. And so eventually like, hey, I'm coming through with Sugarland. Do you want tickets? Like we became friendly.
That's nice.
Yeah. And so thankfully for me, he's I'm 99% sure he's the one that initiated it.
Wow.
And so he knew enough about my history and what it's respectfully done. Although if I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think it says something like, best known for Better Than Ezra, because that's how he knows me.
Yes.
Whether or not that's how I'm best known at this point, who knows?
Yeah.
But it reads that way because of who wrote it. And so that is part of the thing with Wiki.
Yeah, I love it. Jim, you're awful quiet. We got a world class drummer here. Anything that's on your mind, top of mind?
I'm just still thinking about, the studio credits and all that stuff.
And how people listening. Like
I had a question about.
I was going to say on my side, if you go really deep, I'll have a thing called limited engagements.
Okay.
So that's where you got like your Steve Allen, Phyllis Diller, Randy Brecker, just like the stuff where you like one night only.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Most people don't know who these people are unless like they're jazzers or very old people. Phyllis Diller. I did I did 2 weeks with Phyllis Diller.
Oh, that's cool.
And I almost I went into her dressing room. I should have knocked. I opened the door. I saw her without her wig.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was
How
just
was that?
It was just frightening.
Yeah.
It was frightening.
That must have been terrifying.
She was an older woman.
This is a dangerous job.
With zero hair. She had no hair and a big old wig.
Wow.
And she was the first celebrity ever to get liposuction.
Is that right?
Yeah, crazy factoid.
Oh.
Okay, Jim, go.
Well, I was going to go back to you're talking about the Aronoff when he came in and recorded.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? That was the early 90s?
That was the early 90s, yeah.
So that he was transitioning out of Mellencamp at that point into the Smashing Pumpkins, right?
That was pre-Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
And it might have been post-Mellencamp, or he might have still been doing Mellencamp. I don't recall for
so
sure.
he was kind of getting into that, I say, alternative space.
Yeah. And sort of really making his mark at that point as like session or tour, just dude for hire, as opposed to being, before that, being known as Mellencamp's guy.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
You and I have been with our respective acts longer than he was with Mellencamp, and it seemed like he was there. He was there 17 years.
Oh wow, no kidding. Okay,
but 18 years with Sugarland.
Yeah.
How long have I been playing Jason? 26 years.
26 years. That's amazing.
That's insane.
I got to say that
amazing.
next time you see Jennifer, tell her I said hi.
I will.
Yeah,
She has no idea who I am. But
I just saw her about a week and a half ago.
She seems like a sweetheart.
She is a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She is such a talented singer, like way beyond what most people realize. Super consistent, takes it very seriously, does all her warm-ups. She has done a lot of training, but she also is, and the thing I recently did with her, aside from the Sugarland tour in the fall, was we just recorded a record. She's been filming a new series. Her and Kevin Bacon are a couple in it.
Nice.
And there are musical elements to the show. Their characters are musical. It's not a big part of the show, I don't think, but they have some. So they wrote some songs for the show, and a few of those were used in it. But then they decided, because they wrote more than were needed, they said, well, let's just make a record in the voice of these characters, And so I just went up to New York and we tracked that, which was awesome. And I think one of her strengths, along with her vocal ability as a performer, is she's wound up transitioning into acting, and because she comes from a musical theater background. So even as a singer with Sugarland, when, most nights the band leader, Scott Patton, and I will often on the bus watch the show after the show, the IMAG or
Scott's
whatever.
guitar player, right?
Guitar player.
Like your Aaron Rodgers.
Like game tape, totally.
Game tape, yeah.
And so, of course, so much of the time the camera's on, so I'm seeing her perform in a way I don't get to see when I'm playing. And she is not only singing wonderfully and connecting with the audience in a real way, but she's acting every lyric almost. Not in an over-exaggerated way, but emotionally, she's delivering whatever she's saying. You sense that she's feeling that at the moment, whether she really, she's, I think that's part of what's compelling about her as a performer, know, and also, as you say, she really is just a sweetheart, and she's really a very sharp, savvy person,
Well, it's funny because, she's got, what do you say? She sings like with a rubber band in her mouth. She's got that southern drawl.
She does. She definitely does. Yeah.
So I mean,
and that is authentic to who she is. She's from South Georgia, and you know, she, like anybody that has traveled the world and has you know, educated themselves and that kind of thing. Yes, she can turn different accents on and off or whatever,
right.
but that is what you hear her do in Sugarland is not a put on.
It's not effective.
It's what she comes from.
But coming from like a Broadway, you know, show tunes background,
and but she was doing that originally in South Georgia.
Yeah.
You know, it's just now she's actually done it on Broadway, and in a way, her turning on the accent that's not that is the acting. You know what I mean? Because that's what the role requires. It's the whatever. If she's acting in Chicago or Wicked, that person's not from South Georgia, so she's not going to sound that way. But when you talk to her, especially if she's giving you a little sass, it's going to get sassy.
Right.
You know, like
she projects too. She's got a big voice.
She does have a big voice.
Tina Turner.
That's a big vibrating chasm right there. I got to back her up on a couple songs on that show, American Supergroup. It didn't make it to TV. But
okay.
She was one of the celebrity judges, and I got to back her up. She was very nice.
We saw
all
her,
smiles.
We saw her in a movie. I can't remember what it was.
Good actress.
Yeah, and it was one of those people like, why do we know this? But she looks so familiar, and all of a sudden, like, oh my god!
Right.
I can't remember what it was. But
She's
is she still doing anything with Bon Jovi at all, or anything like that?
No, he came and did. He's on my resume because he came and did. He would occasionally come and do "Who Says You Can't Go Home" with Sugarland.
You have every right to do that.
That's right. We have a theme now of this on this episode.
That's right.
But I don't think they've, other than him maybe occasionally performing that song with us. I don't know. I'm not aware of any other, them working together or anything else. But
well, getting to even it's fun because I followed you for a while on social and stuff like that, and you and kind of like a cadre of other people here in town. You guys hang together, and it's a lot of fun to watch from afar.
Oh, the Kevin Murphy clique.
And it's funny because I did see you guys do your drummers lunch one time in San and Zoe's.
Oh yeah, okay,
and, you know, I recognized all of you.
Ben.
And for Kevin, Ben, and
often Keo.
You got Keo, definitely. You were the four most recognizable people. And I think maybe you had like 7 or 8 people at the time.
Yeah.
And I'd gotten lunch and I'm like, I should just introduce myself. And I'm like, no.
Well, next time, come say hi.
Well, I will now, but you know,
I
got to see Kevin Murphy being like, who the hell is this guy?
Well, Sam and Zoe's is a very small place to have a meeting like that.
That's true. You're right. It is. That is kind of unusual. We probably took the whole dang place over.
It was about 6 guys, I think.
Okay.
There's no privacy in that place.
No.
You're going to be sitting next to someone. You're going to be like, hey, so my divorce proceedings are going through.
Right. I know. It's like, it's true.
Thinking about burying the body.
I'm thinking about burying the beater.
And by beater, I mean body.
Right.
That's right.
And any of those things, if Murphy's president, he's going to be the ringleader. You know?
He's definitely a strong personality.
I love that he is just so willing to just fucking say it.
He is absolutely willing. I remember back maybe the first year or so, I'd been playing with Sugarland, and after Sugarland was done for the year, I filled in for Little Big Town. They were out with Carrie Underwood and just needed to finish the year, whatever had happened with their drummer situation. And so I was out with them. And so I was sort of discussing with them as they were looking for who would be next, you know, and some guys were coming out and auditioning at sound checks and stuff. And I recommended Murphy. And so this is 2008 or something maybe. And I feel like I got word back. Well, maybe I didn't even get word back. Maybe I just looked for myself. At the time would have been Facebook probably. And then it's the same as now. He was posting whatever his opinion was at the moment. I'm like, well, he's not going to wind up playing for Little Big Town if that's what he's supposed to, if they look at this at all. And I told him that. I'm like, just so you know, this is a thing. Be aware of it. He does
not care.
He does not care. And at that time he acknowledged it and we talked about it. But I think he has just decided whatever, he just is going to
let the chips fall where they may.
That's right. And I admire that about him.
He's still working.
Yeah, he is.
He's fun to watch, man.
Yeah,
he's a solid player.
He's a great player. Great player and a great friend,
Yeah.
Well, at this point in time, you'll be able to proudly say that you shared a podcast studio with me.
There you go. It's going on my resume.
That's right.
You have every right
to
put that in.
I will not judge you for it.
So you and I could, if we wanted to, Ludwig drums, ProMark sticks, Remo heads, Zildjian cymbals. Well, I'm DW and Sabian, but ProMark and Remo and Extreme Isolation headphones. We could do a clinic together.
We could do a clinic
We
together.
could totally do
Totally
that.
should.
Yep. I've done one or two clinic-like things
Yes.
in my life, and I just can't.
Didn't bring you joy.
No, it's not that. It's not that. I feel, I guess all people have some measure of imposter syndrome or whatever.
Oh, gosh.
But I there is something in me, partly because of, I don't wear it like a badge of honor, the self-taught thing, because we all learn from so much of what we listen
Sure.
to and see and hear and whatever. But because I wasn't given lessons and I didn't learn notation, there was no academic part of my coming up. I always feel like, well, then I don't know how to start. I don't know what I have to share. But, slowly I'm shifting my thinking and thinking, well, I can just share my experience.
Exactly.
And so I have started thinking more in terms of trying to do some more of that stuff.
Because academia can really hurt you. You know what I mean? It could
does
go
in the
the
business
other
world.
way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are people with business degrees that, there are people that have run businesses that can think and talk circles around people.
And
with business
college is
degrees.
becoming less of a thing.
It is.
And you were ahead of the curve there. You were like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is working for me. I know how this works. I'm going to go down this path.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, all those valuable stories as you told just on this podcast, having humility
Mm-hmm.
and, putting your pride in your pocket,
Right.
and that's,
Right.
dude, that's invaluable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are how about those Extreme Isolation headphones? Those are great, aren't they?
I love them.
Do you use the EX25s or the EX29s?
I don't remember, honestly.
I use the 25. Seems like the 29s are too bright.
Okay, I'm trying. The ones I use most of the time are the ones that I don't know if they're still doing it, but for a minute they were making some that they then one or the other licensed. They say Telefunken on them.
Oh, gotcha.
They're the Telefunken branded ones, but they're made by Extreme Isolation.
I missed that period.
Yeah, so those I have a few of their headphones, but the pair that I go to all the time are those. It's the more squared looking ones, whichever model
Right.
that is.
Like we back in elementary school when you put the record player on. Remember those headphones? Or was it just me?
Yeah,
It was just
the
me.
big bulky headphones. You
Yeah,
mean?
like they're
yeah.
square. Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't have. We as a kid, we had the Radio Shack kind of round ones, but they were
Right.
big and bulky and kind of greenish.
Like what Ben Stiller was wearing in Starsky and Hutch when he's jogging on the beach.
I
They've
don't
got the
remember.
antennas coming out.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I miss Radio Shack, man.
I know.
Where you can get your male-female applicators.
all the
So-
yeah.
Well, actually, Fry's kind of took their place, but we don't have a Fry's out here.
We got fries in
Fry's?
California everywhere.
Yeah.
Nevada as well.
Yeah.
But man, this is really. It was a pleasure getting to know you, man.
Yeah.
Well, you're just so accomplished.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Accomplished
I
and
like that
approachable.
yes. I like that you can you swim equally in the studio and live.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because people always ask, like, I was like, dude, I just told myself I didn't put limitations on my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I am going to be a touring drummer. I'm also going to be a recording drummer. I'm also going to be an educator. If I do all those things, they will cross-pollinate and I'll never be bored.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm going to propose here, based on what we talked about earlier about drum clinics.
Uh-huh.
Well, you and I have been talking about doing roundtables, getting 3 guys or ladies in here as well,
Yes.
and having fun conversations, just whatever comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the other drum podcasts are not doing roundtables.
No, we can do that.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you?
yeah,
Wouldn't that be cool?
I think it'd be awesome. Yeah. I did one of those. It was like a special certain number episode for
Nashville Drummer Podcast?
was it Nashville Drummers or
That's
Working
a-
Drummer?
Working Drummers?
Working Drummers Podcast
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Matt
yeah.
Krause?
Yes, with Matt Krause, and
Nice.
it was McHugh and maybe was it Hubert? I can't remember, but it was 3 of us. It
Oh,
was
yeah. And it was over at the Drum Paradise.
Yeah.
Upstairs.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so that's the only time, I mean, it's not a regular thing anyone does that I'm aware of. And I think it's a really cool
Yeah, Matt is our
format.
next episode and it timed out perfectly with them celebrating
today,
500th episode.
He'll be out tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, cool.
500
Nice.
But I mean, I
That's
think
amazing.
we need to start looking at that.
Okay, Joe.
every now and then getting some of these guys that have just, you're all in the same kind of fraternity.
Well,
But also,
go ahead. Yeah.
in a drum clinic sense, why not have 3 or 4 drummers in the same clinic? Like star power.
I did a couple with Troy Laquetta and Sandy Gennaro.
Right.
Okay.
So both childhood heroes because I would sit with my cereal in the morning and watch these guys on MTV.
Sure.
And then later in life, they become friends. Wild.
What
Right,
kind
right.
of cereal? Wheaties, cornflakes, Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios,
Honey Nut Cherries. Yeah.
Captain Crunch.
I like Captain Crunch. It simply cuts the roof of your mouth.
It does.
It really does.
I love Captain Crunch, and I never buy it because literally 2 days ago I was looking at the groceries like those look good, except that'll hurt, and I didn't buy it.
The thing you got to do, you got to buy the malto meal version.
Okay,
Because
I'm not familiar.
like the mainstream versions, they've completely bastardized them.
Okay,
And I think the malto meal, they're called the Mom brand.
okay.
Don't ask me how I'm such a cereal expert,
Yeah.
but anyway, they're the ones that come in the bags.
Oh, so the generic.
But they're not generic. They taste like how you remember them.
Oh, okay, nice.
That's interesting. Okay,
Don't ask me how I know.
good to know.
Interesting, but we're going to hopefully be kissing all these like additives and GMOs and stuff goodbye.
That's what they say.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Is it time for the Fave 5?
Yeah.
Favorite color?
Oh wow, wow. Oh man, it varies.
Yeah.
Well, because you're a well-dressed man.
I'm going to guess red.
I don't know. I
Green,
don't know.
blue, indigo, purple.
I lean into kind of blacks and grays and more neutral stuff.
Me too.
Monochromatic.
Yeah,
Blacks and grays, bro.
Yeah.
So somewhere between black and gray.
Yeah, I suppose.
Blay. Favorite food or dish?
Wow.
As of late.
I would say, I think if occasionally there's the conversation of if you can only eat one, ethnicity or style or whatever of food, for me, it'd either be Mexican or Italian.
Nice.
Not Cajun, huh?
No, but I love it. I mean, I do love it. I absolutely love Cajun
There's a
food.
place down here that maybe it's in Colombia. I'll give her a shout out. What's
Look
her
it up.
name?
What do you like when you go to New Orleans? Do you still is Cafe Du Monde too touristy?
No, man. You know what? My wife and I have been going back there more in the last couple of years, more frequently than we were for a while. And in that couple of years since we've been doing that, I hadn't been to Cafe Du Monde, and every trip we were there, I would want to go, and we just wouldn't fit it in. And so finally, this last time I was there, I went, and I was like, "Yep, it's as good as I remember when I was a
Chicory,
kid."
hot black chicory coffee
man.
with that melting in your mouth.
I make that's the drip coffee I make every morning at my house is chicory coffee.
Do you?
Really?
What's the brand?
CC's.
CC's?
Uh-huh.
Do they have it at like your Publix's and Kroger's and all that
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
at Kroger. Yeah.
So
It's a red bag, CC's, which is it stands for Community Coffee, which is a Louisiana brand.
yeah, that's right.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Community Coffee?
Community
is it a
Coffee.
New Orleanian brand?
I met their owner.
And just their regular flavor is chicory?
No, they have a bunch of different flavors.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so it's a red bag with a yellow, the specific, because all the flavors have a different little square,
Yeah.
and it's a yellow square, and it's chicory.
But it's typically their brands are like it's a white and red brand.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what we drink is Don Francisco.
Oh, yeah,
It's like very specific.
Is it in the can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vanilla nut or Hawaiian.
Okay.
Those are our
I
flavors.
just like the graphic design of that brand. I
Yeah.
just like the look.
I met the CEO owner of Community Coffee when I had to do some video shooting in Baton Rouge.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she's delightful.
Mhm.
And I was trying to think of they actually have it at the Mercedes dealership up in Music City.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
yeah.
As of late,
Uh-huh.
favorite drink?
Ooh. Well, really, back to coffee. If we were talking alcohol lately, I've leaned toward maybe gin drinks.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a relatively recent.
It eludes me. So like a gin martini?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Because I always go with a vodka martini.
Yeah. In fact, I would say whether it's vodka or can be done with gin, a Moscow Mule is probably my
So nice.
go-to.
Especially if you have the real.
If you have the copper mug because it's so cold, which
Yeah.
I love that, and I love the fizz of the ginger beer.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah. That's really good. This is so tough. As of late, or it could be of all time. Favorite song?
Ooh. I'm not big on favorites, but I do. There are a couple of few songs that definitely
You can name a couple. Yeah.
always speak to me. If I had to name one, I might say the Beatles. In my life,
Wow.
yeah, it's just so good.
Yeah.
And I am, that. Speaking of my dad being sort of an early musical influence on me, my dad wanted to be John Lennon, so Beatles were the thing very most played in our house, and so. I've heard, I can't remember, there's no Beatles song that I can remember the first time hearing it because I've heard it all since before I can remember, so that is built into into me
Yeah.
from him. And so, and within the Beatles, although it's difficult, if I had to name a favorite, it's John and John songs. And to me, that one in my life is just beautiful.
Remember what Bissonette said?
Ringo is.
If you take the drums and isolate them in any Beatles song,
You know
know
the
what
song.
it is.
There you go.
How do you feel about
Did you watch
people
the
who,
Apple thing? Did you watch the Apple 10-hour Peter Jackson thing?
Yes, I did.
We watched
Absolutely.
that too.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I'm for me, the top drummers are Bonham, Ringo, and Zigaboo from the Meters.
Wow, that's a great mix. That's why you work every day.
Those are the, and it comes from, I mean, Bonham is just the touch, the tone, the everything. I'm a rock and roll drummer at heart, and
Yes.
he's the ultimate rock and roll drummer, I think. And then, growing up in New Orleans, and just the Meters really represent that musicality
Yes.
and that feel, that vibe. There's no songs there. It's just riffs, but the way the stuff feels is so good. Yep, it's so good. Yep.
Nice.
But then growing up on the Beatles, the songcraft and the melody, all that is so important to me.
Yeah.
And so, and even the uniqueness of Ringo's tones and feel and creativity of parts, so the combination of those two things is what I think of as my sort of touchstones.
Dude, I think that's why I just not secretly, I'm here in a very public forum going, I love you, Travis McNabb. I love Travis McNabb. You put all those things in a blender and it's like, I think, Ringo, favorite fill, with the tea towels, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Phil has been on Sugarland records. I feel that Phil has been on Megan Maroney records.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely been on Jason Aldean records.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm an overeducated rock drummer. You're a rock drummer at heart.
Mm-hmm.
What was one time I was hanging out with Zig at NAMM.
Oh, cool.
And I had just started acting. And
Okay.
he goes, oh yeah, I can see you doing that shit. I really took it to heart. He's just a
awesome.
nice guy.
That is awesome.
God.
I've met him in passing only a couple of times, but he's such a hero of mine.
You know Stanton?
I'm good buddies with Stanton. I've known him for a very long time.
We have so many millions of mutual friends. And really, I'll just see him at like PASIC and I'll give him a quick hug. We have not spent any time together. I love what he does.
He's so great. I love what he does too. I love, he has that passionate educator thing that you have, which is wonderful.
But then he's got a band. And
he does so many different things musically, and who he is as a player. I love that he is the representation to the current learning people of New Orleans drumming, because I think he does it in a really, aside from as an educator and how he explains things, but his playing, it's very authentic. It's the real deal.
It's like Johnny Vodakovich passed the torch.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And so, I love him. I was earlier mentioned my wife has done so many different things. One of the things that she did is when we were in New Orleans, she had a couple men's clothing stores, and so it was called Style Lab for Men, and so she had this series of ads of different known people in town doing whatever in their clothes, and it would say whatever in style. And so there was one ad that was drumming in style, and it was Stanton and I playing together, and so for the photo shoot for that, we're both just on very minimal, like kick snare hats kind of kit, all crowded in close,
You guys are dressed.
Yeah. And we're dressed in all the, clothes from the shop. And so we're trying to figure out, at first we just start playing a little, but then the photographer's like, well, I'm trying to capture whatever movement and stuff. And so Stanton said, okay, so I've learned this. If you just play the wind up monkey thing, it winds up good in photos. So we're just sitting there going, boosh, bash, boosh, bash, boosh, bash. Like, just,
really?
Just the dumbest, simplest thing. You'd think these two New Orleans drummers would be getting all funky.
Oh
we're just
my
going,
God. That's really, because you know what? Some of the greatest press shots I've ever gotten were from pretending to play.
Same.
Because we have the worst facial
I know,
stuff.
it's true. Yes.
Like you have a press shot right now where, you've got the ascot on and you're in your studio and you look great.
Yeah.
But it looks like, I think he posed that one.
It's post.
But it comes off
post.
great.
It's post.
Yeah.
Because you're right. That is ultimately. That's
Otherwise, we
usually,
make stupid faces and we're sweating.
There, every once in a while, there'll be some live shot that almost looks like a photo shoot. But I mean, it's like once every 5 years you get something back. It's like, oh, that's actually really cool. It's well lit, and I'm not making a crazy face. I'm not stupid sweaty, and I'm
It's
not
like a needle in a haystack.
It is.
Dude.
It really is.
It really is.
Mostly
Jim.
it's just like, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is going to be difficult for you. Same thing. As of late, or just of all time favorite film.
Oh man! Wow. Yeah, that's gonna be tough for me. Gosh.
It comes on. You could sit down and watch it start to finish.
I was going to say, I have one of those lately because it has been coming on lately. And every time my wife and I will stop and watch it and talk about how great it is Moneyball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's an
With Brad
as of
Pitt?
late.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an as of late answer. But at the moment, that's just one that has struck us every time it comes on. We're like, oh yeah, this is great. And we just watch the whole
Now,
thing.
do you guys have similar tastes in films as a couple? Like, you know, sometimes there's couples who are like, one person loves horror films,
Right,
one
right.
loves romantic comedies, but
Mostly we're in pretty much the same neighborhood.
Nice.
Every once in a while there's something one of us might want to see, the other's not interested in. But generally TV, movies, we're mostly on the same page. Thankfully, decor at our house, all that kind of stuff, we're just on the same page. Thank
awesome.
goodness.
yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, sometimes you're married to a woman for a long time and she really could be in like, you know, doilies and bric-a-brac and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
But I've been lucky that every woman in my life has had almost like masculine decor tastes.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
So that's worked out. Yeah.
So why Moneyball? Are you a baseball fan?
I am a baseball fan. I don't follow it currently. As a kid growing up, I was a big baseball fan, but it's not as much about the baseball. It's really just about it could be set in almost any industry, but the inner workings, just the nature of the relationships and the acting and the writing. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just enjoy it.
It's a funny movie to watch because of the strategy he devised to really kind of, well, I don't need to have the best players. I just need to get them on base.
Right. Yeah.
And what's the mathematical?
Well, right. That's the thing. It was the embracing of the actually using stats as opposed to intuition or that guy looks
Hype.
like a yeah, exactly. But the thing that part of what's intriguing about it, I think, is because what's his name? The younger actor in it. Noah.
Oh, it's gosh, he was heavy at the time. Gosh, what was his name?
That dude, yeah.
Anyway, he's the one really with the strategy, but the Brad Pitt character is the one who embraces it.
Yeah.
And just is absolutely, are we doing it this way or are we not? Because if we're doing it this way, we're doing it all the way.
He was taking the big risk.
Yeah, he was taking a big risk. And, I've read, I got intrigued enough about it recently to do some reading, and it wasn't quite as heavy-handed or as much of a problem within the team as they portray in the movie, because of course they're going for drama. But just, and again, so not even talking about necessarily the real thing, but just that movie as a movie, that's part of what I think is compelling about it, is that he's just like, nope, we believe in this concept, so no matter what anyone else, the general manager of the team or the press, what anyone thinks, screw them. We're doing it. We're going for it.
We're committing.
Yeah.
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. Thank you.
Chris Pratt was in that movie.
Oh, wow.
And God rest his soul, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Wow, one of our greatest actors.
Right?
No,
He was awesome.
Just saw the other day that he passed away much longer ago than I realized.
Yeah.
Was it like 10 years or something?
Was it heroin?
I think it was.
I don't know.
I think it was.
Might have been. It was really sad because he was great. He was great, man.
He was great.
I think he was. I don't think he was shooting it. He was snorting it or
It
something.
might have been
Sure.
shorter because he was in the Hunger Games movies.
Okay.
So those were, I don't know if those were a decade ago.
Yeah, with Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah.
She's on my list. Do you have a list?
What's your list? What's your hall pass? It's funny because that movie reminds me a lot of one of my movies is The Big Short.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can watch that movie anytime.
Yeah, with what's her name?
It's
Barbie. Barbie was in it.
Oh yeah, right.
Steve
right.
Buscemi, not Buscemi. Steve Carell was in it. Brad Pitt
great.
was in it.
Yeah.
A lot, big cast.
Totally.
And Batman, Christian Bale.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Batman.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, what's your question, Jim?
My question, as always, is if someone holds a gun to your head and said you got to pick a band of tribute for the rest of your life, you can't do anything else. This is it, man. It's gonna cover all your basic needs, but every single day playing the music over and over and over.
Probably the Beatles.
There you
Beatles?
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fairly easy one. For
Nice.
Me. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were born 5 years after Ed Sullivan.
Yeah. That's right.
Ladies and
funny?
gentlemen, The Beatles.
I had a conversation the other day with some people here who don't have the appreciation of the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I understand that, I said, but you got to think like, it was an industry driven thing. They were very well marketed. I'm going, yeah, but they wouldn't be as popular still if that were the case.
I think that's true. Now, early days when they first came out, I think they were doing what they were doing very well, but it was very much what other bands of their space and time were doing.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that the talent, the unique individual, songwriting skills and abilities, and combined with the success they had, allowed them a freedom to pursue what they wanted to pursue along the Moneyball idea. It's just, we're just going to do our thing.
Yeah.
And what it maybe didn't, I don't know if it was a conscious thought, but the basic notion behind that was they're so successful that they can kind of do what they want. And even if it doesn't work, so what? I think they felt that a little bit, but I don't think it was like they'll take whatever we give them. It's just, we're gonna do what we want. And they were so popular that people were open to it. And it turns out it was really fucking good.
But look at also their years of productivity.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
No.
Yeah.
A large body of work in a short period of time.
Yes, very much shorter than I think most people realize. Yeah,
I love watching that Peter Jackson thing, and Ringo's just smoking his cigarettes. He's got his tea towels on the drums. He's got his tea. He's just waiting, and then they're ready for them to count the song off, and it's just, and they're in.
Yeah,
he knew just what to do, and it was always perfect.
Yep. Yep.
Incredible.
Yep.
We've gone so long that my photo reset.
Ooh, look at that. So Sugarland tour is this year?
Not sure. Haven't heard yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did the fall tour, and then I don't know necessarily what the plans are.
But someone's going to call you.
Yeah. I mean, right now, thankfully, that my session thing is picking up more.
Yeah.
And so at the moment, I've got a number of things on the books for session stuff, which is lovely.
Yes.
Both at my place and
on the row.
On the row.
What do you do for cartage? Your stuff's not at Drum Paradise.
It's not. Partly because I like having my stuff available to me, so I have it come to and from my house every time. So I use Larry Firkins.
Oh, Larry, I like Larry.
Yeah, Larry's awesome, but he comes out all the way out to Franklin for me.
That's nice.
And so I don't have to commit anything to being unavailable to me other than if it's a music row session. All my stuff comes back to the house. And so that's, I love that. And that's the main reason I've kept it that way. And he's been okay with going all the way out there every time. So.
Yeah, you gotta figure out how to work that stuff. I mean, I pay $75 a month to keep a pile of gear in Burbank, and I'm not using it.
Yeah,
but hey, $75 is pretty cheap.
It's pretty cheap.
So I got to figure out what to do with all that. But
you gonna keep that stuff or?
I'm always giving my gear to Jim.
We made that video one time where I just walked around your studio at the other place, and I was picking up. It was you filming me, going, "You want this? You still use this? You need this? I'll take it."
You do take it, Jim.
Wow.
No, but
not as much as I should.
No, but we barter because Jim is the brains behind this operation. He does all the file management, all the editing, all the marketing. Thank you, Jim. So the one last question I was going to ask you is, as a fan of vintage drums, but I don't have a sick amount like some people get into. What are those Ludwig drums that have like the sunburst in the middle? Oh, you record them a lot.
Yeah. So those are, that's actually, I have a ton of vintage drums, and those are actually relatively modern drums. But
are they?
They were sort of a reissue that I guess maybe didn't really work for Ludwig because they only did them for about 5 years. And they're called Club Date series.
Oh, gotcha.
And for a minute, for like a year, maybe they did a inexpensive made overseas Club Date series, but then they did ones made at the factory in
Monroe, North Carolina, right?
Yeah. And I have 2 kits of those actually. One is I had them out with Sugarland in the fall. It's the same drums as the ones you see in my studio, just different finish.
Gotcha.
And I have wood hoops on the ones I had on the road. But it's I'm so bad about remembering like which woods and how many plies and what bearing edge.
I just
or whatever.
think they're sexy. I like that.
They are, and I love the way those kits sound. And they made them, I want to say, for about 4 or 5 years, and I think they stopped about 4 or 5 years ago.
So you can buy them used Club Dates.
You can buy used Club Dates, and they always have the single or the single lug with the, and a lot of them will have that Duco paint finish. Yeah.
You know what I have is the 1974 Pro Beats.
Oh yeah,
with the kind of Ringo-esque the finish.
Yeah, Black Oyster Pearl or
Blue
something
Oyster.
like it. Blue. Yeah. Uh-huh. I have a Gretsch kit that I used early days, the first couple tours with Better Than Ezra. It's a round badge kit, but when I bought it, it was, I think it's like 24, 13, 16, 18, and the floors didn't match, and I don't know, it didn't all match. So I had them rewrapped, and this was even before I joined Better Than Ezra. I had them all rewrapped to match, not having the knowledge of that Gretsch never did a Black Oyster Pearl. So I did them in that because I'm a big Ringo fan.
Yeah.
And so I have this Black Oyster Pearl round badge Gretsch kit that is not a thing, but I've got one. And in fact, the biggest feature I ever had in Modern Drummer, I'm playing those drums.
Yeah. Did you ever, has your stuff ever found its way to like the Hard Rock cafes or whatever?
I do have one small kit that Hard Rock bought from me that was it was part of a DW kit that I used for a long time with Ezra, and I used on one Sugarland tour. But at some point, I was using 2 elements from it as a cocktail kit. It was a 14 floor tom on a stand doing upright with one of those backwards,
cocktail beaters.
Yeah, and then a edge piccolo snare above it off the same stand, so it kind of looked like one big contraption.
Yeah,
and I used that for our acoustic set for a long time with Sugarland, including an appearance we did that it was Beyonce's first foray into country music, which was, if I remember right, it was American Music Awards, one of the TV shows. Beyonce and Sugarland did a duet and used the Sugarland band, and I'm playing that kit on it. Yeah. And so when Hard Rock approached me, they were interested, they just approached me about, what do you have that you might want to sell that has some kind of, interesting history. And I told them about a few different things, but I said, this was, it was used with Better Than Ezra, it was used with Sugarland, and it was used on this TV performance with Sugarland and Beyonce. Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, then we'd have that playing next to it on a little TV. Nice. So they wanted that.
That's awesome, buddy.
So it's pretty cool.
Please tell me they paid good money.
They paid crazy, dumb, ridiculous good money.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wish they would call me, because Jason's rock and roll enough that surely.
I would think his stuff would wind up in one of those places.
I played Sonar for a decade, and I sold like 10 Sonar drum sets. I figured, hey, they got a decade of marketing out of it. Grassroots marketing. Yep. And then I used the money to pay for Drumming in the Modern World, that thing I filmed 10 years ago. So But now I'm with DW, and I'll just probably die as a DW guy.
Well, it's funny because I remember talking to you. I don't know if you remember this. We talked on the phone when you were considering
selling.
When you were considering going to DW.
Yes.
Because I was a DW guy at that time.
That's right.
And
so glad I did.
Yeah. And I remember encouraging it. And there are reasons I made a change, but it's nothing to do with the people there or the quality of their stuff. I mean, they're an amazing company,
right.
So, and Garrison, in fact, is, I don't know, is he still artist relations over there? Such a great guy. And he's the reason I went with them originally. You know, I mean, it was really, for me, mostly about that personal relationship with him. He was so great to me, and I still value that relationship, even though I haven't spoken with him in a long time, but I just have so much respect and love for him. Yeah.
He's the professional model of how to return a email promptly. Because before you, as soon as you send it, your response is back, and it might be only 2 words. Got ya.
Right. Yeah.
But he's got
that means
somehow
he's doing it.
4,000 global, endorsers. In different languages. It's crazy. That's a big job.
Right.
Jim, did we have fun?
We had fun.
I had total fun.
What did you learn?
I learned that I'm a Travis McNabb fan even more. I'm going to have a shirt. I heart Travis McNabb. I think that should be a shirt. It's like we're kismet, you know what I mean? And I have the same hair that you do. We have senator hair right now. I have just spackled it.
Yeah. Well,
because I love it.
Yeah.
Rock it, man.
Yeah.
Fucking own it. It looks great.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because for me, the gray came kind of early in my 20s. It was starting. And at that time, like, I'm in an alt rock band playing like college festivals and stuff. And the guys were like, yeah, we can't be, you're 31, but you can't look like you're 40, you know?
Yeah.
And so I died it for a long time. And then at some point when I wasn't doing the Ezra thing anymore and I'm on Sugarland and I was still dying it. And after, I think coming in for rehearsals for a new tour, so I hadn't for a while, show up at rehearsal and Nettles goes, oh, I like the gray. I'm like, permission. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not really gray. It's the
Chicks
Steve,
love it.
the Steve Martin kind of thing. You got all your hair, if it were.
Well, that's talking about Robbie Harrington earlier. Yeah. He has a great quote. He says, I don't care what color it turns as long as it don't turn loose.
Yeah. It's funny. I hear people talking about, losing their hair and everything. And it's like, okay. You want to see mine? I've actually just recently grew mine back. I have a lot more than I remembered.
Oh, okay.
So
was that a nice surprise?
I guess. My wife was like, the bald looks kind of played out.
Jim, it's just so important to me. I'm so close to the earth. I'm 5'7". I tell everybody 5'8". I gotta have my hair.
Right.
So
guys like we have hair everywhere else but our head.
I know. I wax all the other parts.
I sit there and I sit on the couch at night and pick hair out of my ears for crying out loud.
It's
like I have one that's like so deep inside my ear. I have to go in there with like tweezers and I'll let it go for like 2 months. And all of a sudden it's like, and you're like, oh my, this thing's like
makes
an
you
inch
cry.
and a half.
It makes you cry.
No, it doesn't. It's just like, it's got a satisfaction to it when you pull it out.
Oh yeah.
But it's like that long.
Amazing, Jim.
It's freaking
We have
huge.
lost our viewers and our listeners at this point.
Right.
No.
This is what I like casual though. This is fun conversation.
This is super casual, but really one of the reasons to start the show was just to shine a light on all of our friends and everyone's like, hey, when are you going to get Steve Gadd? Hey, when are you get Terry? Like they're on the list. We're going to get Steve Gadd. We're going to get Terry Bozzio, but I want to interview my friends first.
Yeah.
All the folks in Nashville that we can be in a room together with because, and then we did quite a few episodes during the pandemic via Zoom. I was in Los Angeles. He was here, but we got a lot of guests. That was fun.
We did.
But it's much better being in the same room.
I agree. I prefer it. I've done a handful of podcasts and more often I've sometimes been in the same room, but then it's audio, in those cases, audio only. And I have also done online where it's video and audio, but this to me is the best experience, just like, recording or anything else, when you can do it in the space with the actual other humans.
You get the energy.
Yeah, it's just a different...
Totally.
And it's the digitization happens where people are going, oh, you go ahead. No, I was
right,
okay,
right.
I'll go.
Yeah, the slight delay. Yeah.
Oh, you dropped out there for a second.
It's horrible.
Oh, it's awful.
Totally horrible. Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so great, to celebrate you. And I heart Travis McNabb. We're lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you in the Nashville music community, and I'm lucky to know you. So thanks, brother, for doing this. Really appreciate it. Jim, thanks for your time and talent, man.
Thank you, sir.
It was a great day. Jim and I got to go run an errand together today out in Smyrna. We got to break bread and have some Chinese food.
Nice.
It was a great day. Might even smoke a cigar at some point.
Maybe.
Amazing. Hey, to all the listeners, we really appreciate you guys and gals. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. It helps people find the show. And really try to take the time to do it. It's 30 seconds. Just give us 5 stars and a thumbs up. Maybe a couple words. Love the show. All right. Well, we appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening.
This has been The Rich Redmond Show. Subscribe, rate, and follow along at richredmond.com/podcasts.